Hello and welcome to the Talking Yakyu podcast. I am Yuri Kurosawa, or Yakyu Cosmopolitan, and joining me is my co-host Brandon Tu, operations analyst at Sports Info Solutions and pro evaluator at Prospects Live. The 2026 World Baseball Classic has come and gone. As we predicted on this show, Japan did not quite have what it takes to repeat. They lost to Venezuela in the quarterfinals for their worst finish in WBC history, unfortunately. But what a run by Venezuela coming out of Pool D runner-ups. They edge out Japan, Italy, Team USA to win their first ever title. So let's just start there, Brandon. Give me your quick thoughts on Japan versus Venezuela and the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I think it kind of played out like we were a little bit talking about on the podcast previously. You just didn't have the pitching, didn't have the lineup to kind of threaten a team like Venezuela. I've kind of always thought that Venezuela was like the third best team, like talent wise, in the tournament. So some other people were like shocked, even like Venezuela themselves were like, people didn't believe in us, people didn't think we were going to do this. But I mean, they have so much talent across that lineup, and then when you can go to guys in the bullpen like they can, I think that's pretty telling stuff in terms of the talent across that lineup, and also like I mean, it just wasn't set up easy for Samurai Japan. Like, even if they had like gotten through Venezuela, you still would have had to face like a tough Italy team that kind of surprised everyone with all those, American or Italian Americans and whatnot, or Americans basically, and just how well they were playing, and just how top form they were. I'm kind of excited from like the results of the WBC. Obviously, Samurai Japan, they're very disappointed in this outcome, and I know that we both talked about it a little bit, is like, I don't think that's a bad thing for Samurai Japan. Like, they now know, like, hey, we have to send our best guys there, and we have to like actually send the best squad that we can in order to win the tournament. Like, we can't just show up with, an 80%, 85% roster and win a game, or win key games in the knockout stage. I do think it's kind of interesting that they have to like play in the Tokyo Dome most times, or they have to play in Asia for most of the tournament in terms of the pool play, and then all of a sudden they have to like go down to like Miami, or go to the US, and they have to play in like this raucous atmosphere, and like this just like completely different atmosphere than what they faced in like Japan. So maybe that's something that can be like looked at in you know future WBCs, is like, hey, can we get like some like movement in terms of like where the pools are located and stuff like that. But I also understand like why Tokyo has a pool, because like it's the biggest draw, you can make the most money. So I totally understand that. But maybe that doesn't prepare them to face a team like Venezuela in the knockout stage. Maybe that doesn't prepare them to face a team like the DR. So yeah, it's just an interesting combo to kind of have.
There is a lot for Japan to reflect on. I don't think they had, as good of a roster as 2023. Also, Hirokazu Ibata is stepping down as manager, so we'll see who ends up coming in, and we'll talk about that when the time comes. But yeah, I think it's not necessarily a bad thing to lose. I mean, gives you a lot to reflect on. And this has honestly been such a busy period in sports. Obviously, you have March Madness in the U.S. In Japan, people were locked into the Winter Olympics, WBC, pre-tournament exhibitions. High School Koshien just started. Spring Basho for sumo is just wrapping
Mm.
up. So honestly, I haven't kept up with MLB or NPB spring training as much as I would like. I've mostly just watched highlights, but opening day is in less than a week now. So it's time for season preview and predictions. But before we begin, make sure to follow Japan Ball on all its socials and check out our official tour provider, Extra Innings Travel, for information and bookings on global baseball-centric tours to great places like the Dominican Republic, the Netherlands, Korea, and of course, Japan. And don't forget to subscribe to my weekly MPB newsletter on japanball.com. All right, let's get the ball rolling. Who wins the Japan series in 2026?
Oof. I know people aren't gonna like this take. It is what it is. The SoftBank Hawks are winning the Japan series in 2026. I just don't see any other outcome really happening, except maybe we can talk about the Central League. Hanshin Tigers might have a little bit of a say in terms of competing against them. I'll also say like the PL, the Pacific League up at the top, the fighters will have a pretty good fight for SoftBank. But I'm going SoftBank because of the lineup. But I understand the fighters rotation. We can get into it. The fighters rotation is deep, and I do really like it. So I think it's gonna be like a fun little NPB season. But I don't foresee not having a repeat champion. Kind of.
Yeah, the Hawks have been the best team in Japanese baseball for, I mean, not just the last 2 years, but you go back a decade and they were obviously the paramount dynasty in MPB. They hit a bit of a cold stretch from 2021 to 2023. Couldn't make the um, postseason because, or they were in the postseason but couldn't make the Japan series because the Orix Buffaloes kind of took over in the Pacific League. But they won the pennant again in 2024, kind of choked in the Japan series. 2025 though was a different story. They kind of ran the table. Had a little bit of a scare against the Fighters in the league championship series, but then took care of business against Hanshin. But yeah, in the regular season, I mean, this team is just an absolute powerhouse. Lineup, pitching, defensively, they run the base as well. They do basically everything you can think of at an extremely high level. And on top of that, they have probably the best development in the league because they have, so many resources, so many facilities compared to their counterparts. They have so many analysts. Some people don't necessarily realize this, but like Masayoshi Son, the owner of SoftBank, he is the richest person in Japan. He is one of the richest sports owners in the world. So that's why SoftBank can just throw a lot of money at the team. And that's in the form of like signing free agents, but it's also in the form of, you know, having the best resources at their disposal in order to actually develop players and get the best out of them. So yeah, I think the Hawks are not going to have a problem. Certainly competing for the pennant. I do think the Fighters, who we'll get into, are very close. They're right there with them. Last regular season, it was pretty much neck and neck. And in fact, the Fighters were winning for a good portion of the year. SoftBank had a terrible start. They were in last place for the first month and a half or so. They had all
Hmm.
these injuries to star players, but I knew they would pick up steam in the second half. It's just that the way that they did it was like even surprising because I mean they were just by far the best team. After the All Star break, but let's look at the lineup. Um, Really no flaws anywhere. Like the one hole that they have, I suppose, is behind the plate with Takashi Umino, as opposed to they had Taki Akai a couple of years ago, obviously, and he's gone now. Umino is a solid defender, but doesn't really hit. However, they're trying to kind of mitigate this problem by having Roya Kurihara
Yeah, let's go.
catch more this year, which is kind of crazy because he hasn't done it in like 5 years, but he did come up as a catcher, great defensive third baseman. If they kind of, deploy him as like Yuya Gunji for the Fighters, where, he plays a little bit of catcher, a little third, I think, that's going to kind of work for them. And then just every single spot on the diamond here, whether it's, Hotaka Yamakawa, who can hit 30 plus homers at first, Taisei Makihara and Isami Nomura up the middle is a good tandem, both, defensively and offensively. Already mentioned Kurihara, and then yeah, the outfield is stacked with Tetsuro Yanagimachi, who had a big breakout. Ukyo Shuto just got the contract extension. Elite defender, obviously, always going to be winning the stolen base title. And then you have like Kensuke Kondo and Yuki Yanagita, two future Hall of Famers. And in Yanagita's case, the injuries, we don't know how many games he's going to play in any given year. But Kondo, I certainly think he is extra hungry for a big year after what was a very disappointing World Baseball Classic for him. You saw just how hurt he was. He was in tears after the loss because he went 0 for 13 in the entire tournament, and that is just not the player that he is. But yeah, what do you think about this team's lineup?
Yeah, I think the lineup is just interesting, especially if you can like move Curry hard behind the plate a little bit. Then like we start talking about like, oh, we can play like Jeter Downs at third. We can move Jeter Downs to second late in the game and move Makihara to the outfield. We can move Makihara to first base to like bolster the defense and kind of take Yamakawa out of the game defensively. Like there's ways to like move guys around. They have some like positional flexibility on top of being like a lineup that absolutely mashes and puts up runs and has a high OPS plus and defensively like I think we saw it on the graphic before. I think 15 plus 15 DRS last year. Very, very highly rated DRS wise in our metric at Sports Info Solutions team wise. So yeah, when you just have that type of defense up the middle and you can kind of move guys around, like I think that's where the lineup gets like scary. Like even if they have some injuries, like I think they can just plug and play some guys, and it's like, okay, like if we have to plug and play like a Makihara in center field, like hopefully they don't have to. But if you have to like plug a Makihara in center field, like okay, yeah, we just put Jeter down to second now as our everyday player. I think that would work out as like an everyday type of situation for them. So again, I think they need to like have a really strong opening like month and a really strong like, you know, can they go like 2 or 3 weeks without playing well and still win a pennant? Like probably not this year, but if they have some injuries, I think they can still plug in some guys and still perform pretty well. And I think that's like the scary part about them. And then we can get to like the rotation. Like Moinello is top 3 starter in the league, and when you got guys like Ozeki and Uesawa behind him, and Shu and Stewart, like what are you gonna get from those guys? But if you get like top level Shu and top level Stewart, even if it's for like a certain amount of innings, like this team is gonna be like really nasty to deal with on basically all fronts. Like they've built a complete team, and like I hate to say it's gonna turn into a dynasty again, but like we're getting pretty close to like where they might turn into a dynasty if certain things fall their way in terms of injuries and just playing through injuries and stuff like that.
They certainly have the makings of it, and they just have backup plan on top of backup plan, right? Because even in the outfield, where Kondo and Yanagita, yeah, they're injury prone, and last year we saw Tomiya Masaki go down with a pretty nasty injury. So then Yanagimachi stepped up in his place. Like they have guys like Yoshiyasu Sasagawa, one of the best prospects in the
Yeah,
league. They have someone like Soichiro Ishizuka, who on the farm is like one of the best hitters down there. And we haven't even mentioned like veteran Kenta Imamiya. You can plug him at short if you want. Move Nomura to third. Kawase had a good year as kind of a utility man. They're just an absolute powerhouse offensively. And then rotation wise, they lost Kohei Arihara, who was their workhorse, their innings leader. That could potentially hurt them, but I don't think it will because barring like an injury to Moinello, I mean, they're just so strong, both in the way of you have the ace upside with the likes of Shu and Stewart, and I think even Haru Matsumoto you can put into that mix. They have sort of the mid tier guys like an Uwasawa and an Ozeki and an Otsu. They're moving Shuto Ogata into the rotation potentially as well. Although I think he could be a really good, reliever. They kind of need that because Koya Fuji is now out with Tommy John, so they have lost one of the heads of their three-headed dragon in the late innings. But still, Kazuki Sugiyama, Yuki Matsumoto, those guys are nasty. And then, I think Darwinson, Hernandez, Hikaru Kimura, they certainly have a lot in the way of hard throwers. I mean, they ranked first in terms of average fastball velocity out of the bullpen, and they just kind of call guys up who you've never heard of, and they start throwing like upper 90s sometimes. So it's like I'm very much not concerned about SoftBank, falling off. Say like if even if Moinello or Uwasawa go down with an injury, I think they have enough there where Shu or Ogata or Yugo Maeda, another one of the league's best prospects, I think they're going to impress people once they get the opportunity. So I also have SoftBank winning the pennant. I am holding judgment on Japan series. I think Hanshin is like even better this year, so I think that's going to be a really good battle if they meet for a rematch. But you obviously have picked them as your Japan series winner. How about the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters, though? The Nippon Ham Fighters last year in the postseason almost pulled off a reverse sweep of this mighty Hawks team in the league championship series. And that's with the one game ghost advantage that SoftBank got. So the Fighters honestly kind of were better than them in the playoffs, but they just didn't have quite enough to edge them out and get to the Japan series. But yeah, what do you think it's going to take for the Fighters to best the Hawks this year?
yeah. I think if we were looking at the fighters in totality, it'd be you have like really 9 or 10 dudes who can get nasty with it in terms of I really think they have like 9 dudes who they could throw in the rotation and be fine. Can they couple that into like okay, we're gonna just pitch our way to a title, basically. Like, we're just going to dominate the rest of the league in terms of our pitching, and then we're gonna get like timely hitting from like a Mizutani or like a Yazawa or a Gunji at third base. Kiyomiya, he was like one of the most highly touted prospects, and he's kind of moving back over to first base. I think that could work for them. I also think defensively, like they're decent, like they're pretty good defensively. So then it's just about like the timely hitting aspect for me. Chusei Manami, like I kind of have question marks about his profile in terms of like him moving to MLB, but I kind of want to see him like take the next step forward in terms of being like a top 15, 12 player in this league. Like I want to see him take that step forward and kind of cut down the strikeout rate, kind of put the ball in play more when you have like runners on and stuff like that, and then also be able to drive the ball out of the park. Yeah, so that's kind of what I see out of this Fighters team is like the rotation is just so good and so deep to me, and then it's really just about like can they timely hit their way to like a title? Can they score enough runs from like this timely hitting standpoint? I don't know if you feel the exact same way, but yeah, Hiromi's so good, man. Kitsuyama's good. Tatsu, like I feel like we don't talk about Tatsu like enough. Like Tatsu is like a very good pitcher in NPB, and I feel like he just doesn't get talked about enough. And then Arihara coming over, like that's an innings eater right there. Gulin, like are they gonna use him as like an eighth inning, ninth inning guy? Are they gonna use him out of the rotation? Like they have so many weapons in terms of like pitchers that I'm very intrigued to see what they do with their pitching staff this year because I think their pitching staff arguably is the best pitching staff in Japan.
I think it is hands down. And this is probably the deepest, rotation I've seen in MPB in maybe ever. Like a couple of years ago, Orix was running out like an 8 or 9 man rotation to start the season. And they could very well do that if they wanted to. I don't think they should because Ito, Kitayama, Tatsu, Arihara, that's your stable front four. But you need to get guys like Takayuki Kato and Sachi Yamasaki in there. Like they don't blow you away with stuff, but they're still good pitch to contact type guys. And they have these prospects like Shibata and Hosono who have a lot of upside to tap into. So you'd like to give them some opportunities. Gulin is kind of the X factor for me because he doesn't have a defined role yet. I mean, he's been in spring pitching in the ninth inning. In the WBC, he was obviously a starter. So I want to see him as a starter, but they also kind of don't need him to because they're just so deep everywhere. And I do think the bullpen is one area where they could use a little bit of help. Like they have Justice Tanaka, Taisei Yanagawa, Yukiya Saito. Those guys all throw gas and
Mm-hmm.
they can be quite dominant, but a little bit volatile also in terms of things like command. I like that they brought in Saorin Lau. I think Jay Okawa, their first round pick, is nasty. And yeah, I think the pitching, honestly, probably better than SoftBank, especially when you bring over Arihara, so you kind of completely steady the ship. If you had any questions about innings out of that rotation. Now, offensively, I think they don't have the same floor as SoftBank. Like I
Mm.
just think the Hawks, like even if they have guys go down, the next guy's going to step up mentality. The Fighters are a little bit more like, hey, if Chusei Manami goes down, they're kind of in trouble. But the ceiling is almost the same because when you have Franmil Reyes, who said he wants to hit 50 homers this year, when you have
I'll never doubt the
Mizutani,
Franimal. I'll
Manami,
never doubt
that
the Franimal.
combo,
Yeah.
and you have Kiyomiya, who I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. Like when you consider where this guy was just like 4 years ago, where he looked like he was just completely done. I mean, he looked like an absolute bust. And then he's worked his way all the way up to being like one of the
Yeah.
faces of this franchise. Like Kiyomiya, I'm still waiting for that next step from him, like we saw in the second half of 2024, where he was almost OPSing 1,000. Like he has that in him. Um, the question mark for me is up the middle because Tatsuki Mizuno, they're moving him from short over to second. They have Shu Yamagata, who's a great defender, but didn't really hit last year. I think he has the tools to. Rodolfo Castro, who they brought in, like how does he factor in? Daigo Kamikawabata, another really good defender who just hasn't really been able to consistently show it with the stick. I love Gunji though. I mean, Gunji led the team in WAR last year, and he was kind of this super utility man who played 4 or 5 different positions consistently. I think they want to lock him in more as like the third baseman and like just hit cleanup every day for 2026. But yeah, I mean, do you have any doubts about the Fighters like finishing top two. Like I don't see many avenues for this to go wrong for them.
No, I don't have doubts about them finishing top two. I have doubts about them clearing SoftBank in terms of winning the pennant. And that's mainly due to like the offense, and I do think they need to be a little bit timely hitting wise. Just like when they have a chance to capitalize and score runs. I kind of want to flip it and throw it to you. We both really like Chusei, but there's like another gear in his game, I feel like. And we both talked about it. Shun Mizutani like should be playing every day. So then does Nomura become like this platoon bat bench piece that they can almost use? Yeah, I just kind of want your thoughts on like Manami and then Mizutani. Like I think those corner outfielders are going to be huge for them, and like if they want to reset upside potential, I think those two have to hit. And so I'm kind of not skeptical, but just curious, like how those two are kind of gonna work as like full time players. Possibly in the lineup like next to each other too, which is like an interesting wrinkle as well. Like where do they hit Manami? Where do they hit Mizutani?
Yeah, Manami kind of does symbolize this entire lineup as a whole because this kind of applies to SoftBank as well, but they strike out a lot. Like Nipponham and SoftBank actually are some of the more modern offenses in NPB in terms of they can be a little bit three true outcomesy, which I don't think is a problem. Manami this spring, I'll be honest, he doesn't look good. He has been striking out a lot, but this is kind of normal for him. He can have these kind of cold stretches. I think he needs to be like a 5 WAR player, like this team's like MVP if they're going to win the pennant. I also think, with Manami Mizutani, both of them can play center. If they were to play center, that kind of gives you more avenues to play like a Nomura or an Imagawa. Imagawa, who is, teacher man's favorite down in Arizona.
Yeah,
Um, Center field, now that they've lost Go Matsumoto, who was a defense first guy, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Yazawa, Isobata, these two like, lighter hitting lefties, they are quite good defensively, certainly. And in the case of Isobata, he wants to become like the next Ukyo Shuto, a guy who's just an absolute speed demon. Yazawa's their top pick from a few years ago. He's a two-way player, mostly being developed as a hitter now. Obviously, I know Shinjo has really high aspirations for him, but I want to see more at the NPB level. Like right now, I don't think he's anything more than like a number 8 or a number 9 hitter. I don't quite like when he hits at the top of the lineup because I just think they have better options there. So I do think the fighters, if everything clicks for this team, I mean, they're going to win the Japan series, and they just have so much depth in the rotation that even if the offense has a few things go wrong for them, I do think they're going to be able to piece it together. Let's talk about the Orix Buffaloes. They were in third place last year. They lost to the Fighters in the first round of the playoffs. What do you think about them? Because obviously this isn't the same team that made the Japan Series 3 straight years and won it all back in 2022. They had Yoshinobu Yamamoto back then. They had Masataka Yoshida. This is like a new era of Buffaloes baseball, but they bounced back last year under new manager Mamoru Kishida after Satoshi Nakajima stepped down. And yeah, I thought they were, certainly early in the season doing really well. And then they kind of teetered off after that, but still did enough to get into the postseason. So what do you like about Orix?
I think for Orcs, it's like it starts at the top of the rotation for them, and then there's a few intriguing pieces for me in terms of like guys who I just like watching hit and kind of like watching, swing the bat. I think Mori comes to mind as a dude who I've said before he takes absolute daddy hacks, and I just like watching him in the box. Um, but like, does that turn into like Kobayashi? Like we talked about him like possibly representing Japan, Samurai Japan is like one of the best shortstops in NPB. Like, does he take that next step forward? Sugimoto, like Nakagawa in center field, like their outfield probably needs to perform at a pretty high level. Mori probably needs to be one of the best hitters. They have one of the best like defensive catchers, I would say, or at least one of like the best all around catchers, maybe in Wakatsuki. So then it's like the rotation is so good if Yamashi does healthy. I guess we can get into that too, is the kind of scare that we've seen with him. But I mean, you have Curry, you have Sotani. I mean, I think there's enough there for it to like work and for them to possibly be a 2 seed or like the second best team in the Pacific League. But I do think there's like a clear separation in tiers here. I have SoftBank and Nippon as like the first two teams, and then Orix to me is like the head of the next tier basically with Orix, and we'll get to the next team on the list there, but yeah, I feel like Miyagi's gonna have to be special like he always is, and then yeah, how much are you getting from Yamashita is the real question. If you get enough of them, then I think this team is gonna be very good. If you don't, then man, I have serious question marks about maybe how they cover the innings and how they cover all that. But yeah, I do like the lineup. I think the lineup's like decent. Um, can I say this bluntly without being like mean about it? Not very good defensively. They kind of boot the ball around a little bit. So maybe you have to clean that up a little bit from last year. But I think they can too. Like I think they can clean that up. So yeah, we'll see. I'm just very interested in like the middle of the field for them. Like Ota, Kobayashi, Wakatsuki, Nakagawa. Like what does that middle of the field group like give you in terms of like offensive and defensive production?
Yeah, I think this team is a clear example of a lineup that almost punts on defense. When you look at Keita Nakagawa and Hiroka, like these are two kind of super utility guys that can play everywhere, and they're being plugged in now at center and third. They're not great, certainly defensively, and then even up the middle with Kobayashi and Ota. I mean, they're fine, but they're not among the better defensive duos in the league by any means. And that's the trade-off that you get for having like slightly, bigger frame guys there that can hit for a little bit more power.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in the outfield, even, Sugimoto probably should be DHing more. Roman Ishikawa, though, is kind of like an X factor for me because he was, on pace to win the batting title last year, but went down with an injury late in the season, and wasn't able to return. I think that was a big loss for them. And also, he is one of like the few lefties here because this lineup is quite righty heavy, and they killed left-handed pitching last year. And they were actually among the best offenses in NPB, like right up there with SoftBank, and even better than Nipponham. And they brought in, Bob Seymour. So with Yuma Tongu seemingly being a little bit banged up early in the year, I'm interested to see what Seymour can give them. Obviously, a lot of pop, a lot of swing and miss. So this is a very exciting offense for sure. And I do want to point out like Masahiro Nishino, who is, a bit more of like a backup utility type, but he's like the one guy here that is kind of dynamic. I feel like runs a low strikeout rate,
Mm.
can slap the ball around. So, gives them a different flavor a little bit. And then, yeah, I mean, rotation wise, it's really sad because Shumpei Yamashita, we were hearing that he's having one of his best springs ever, pitching without back pain for the first time in years. But then just yesterday, we hear that he is, on the shelf now with elbow discomfort. So who knows how long he's out for. Yamashita last year got hurt in spring with that nagging back injury, and he was out all the way till August. So they need like 15, 20 starts from Yamashita for sure. Because as much
Mm.
as I think this rotation is good, and Miyagi, Yamashita, Sotani, that is a gaudy top three. But at the same time, when they have these defensive limitations, I think they have to have a lot of swing and miss to make up for that. You don't want the ball in play with a subpar defense behind you. Um, and I would like to see a guy like Anderson Espinoza take another step forward. I think he's already like, top 30 starter in MPB caliber. He's a little bit unique with that kind of power sinker. They brought in Jelly. Teranishi, by the way, looks awesome in spring. He pitched against Samurai Japan in that exhibition, struck out Otani. His splitter and has taken a huge step forward. He just looks like a completely different pitcher from his rookie year last season. So I'm very high on what Teranishi can do. But like is Daichi Tajima still, really rotation material? Kind of trending downwards. And then after that, like again with Yamashita's injury, like how much do I trust, Kohei Azuma, who's had all these injuries in recent years, and are guys like Sato and Tomatsu really ready yet to pitch at the MPB level? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I will ask you, what do you think about the bullpen? I think it's kind of like a very uniquely constructed bullpen where we saw what Andres Machado did for Team Venezuela. He's probably going to be the closer this year. A lot of the other guys, they're not all that, it's not that they're not inexperienced, but they don't really have like a track record of like long-term success. They
Yeah.
have the stuff though. So, what do you think about them?
Yeah, I think Perdomo has the stuff. I think Iwasaki has the stuff. Saiki probably does too. Kawase, I kind of like. Um, yeah, it's just like actually putting it together and like production wise, like putting it together. I think Andres Machado is going to be like very good. I'm pretty sure he had like 31 saves last year, so I could see him reaching like the 30 save mark again, probably even going a little higher than that if they win some games. Um, and so that's where I'm like kind of excited about like this team in terms of like if they can get it to the bullpen with a chance to win the game. Can you hand the ball to like a Perdomo, an Iwasaki, a Machado, and kind of work yourself into a win? Kind of protect the lead a little bit. Yeah, that I'm kind of really fascinated about the bullpen, and then also just like yeah, defensively late. Like, are you gonna make mistakes that cost you games? Because I mean, again, not to harp on it too much, but like defensively, they're just not good. So it's like, can you make plays late? To kind of preserve wins. I do like Machado a lot, and I think he kind of showed in WBC like how good he can be. So yeah, I kind of like that move, like putting him as the closer. And yeah, I do think they have some guys who have some stuff like just like looking at some of these names, like even Yamasaki who I didn't bring up, like I think he has like good stuff out of the bullpen at least. So I don't know if there's anyone else I missed. Utagawa, I'm like interested if he's even gonna like pitch that much. Because I know we've had conversations about him in the past in terms of how good his stuff is. So yeah, I don't know if you have any more questions, any more like comments
Yeah,
about the bullpen,
they
but
they
yeah,
had a lot of injuries last year, unfortunately. Like Kotajima went down, Utagawa was doing Tommy John,
yeah,
Yamazaki was out for a bit, Yamaoka was dealing with a off the field issue, so they had to cover that in a lot of ways, and they traded for Iwasaki, who's a little bit older but can run the fastball up to 100, and he slotted in really nicely. I will say though, like compared to when they were winning the pennant and they had that three-headed dragon with Utagawa, Yamazaki, and Wagaspack, it's not quite that anymore. I mean, even Perdomo, like I think Perdomo's a very good setup man, but he is a little bit more pitch to contact these days. They need someone like a Ren Mukunoki, I think, to step up. A guy who almost threw a no hitter in his first career start, but now they're trying him out a little bit more in a reliever capacity. So I think they are definitely going to be a contender for the playoffs, like around that 3 or 4 seed again. But whether they actually are able to sneak in depends on this next team. It's the Tohoku Rakuten Golden Eagles. I mean, last year, fourth place. They have been fourth place basically for the last 5 years. I mean, this is just where they are,
mm,
and this is the kind of team that they've been, where they're never so bad that they're in the cellar, but they're never really good that they're a pennant contender. They're just always middle of the pack, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what do you think needs to go right for Rakuten in order to take that next step and join SoftBank and Nipponham at the top of the Pacific League?
they need to pitch better. They need to play defense better, straight up. Um, I don't know if they're gonna do it, but they definitely need to just pitch better. From that standpoint, like, and some of it does have to do with the defense. Like, even if like you're not getting like earned runs and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, they don't get that many balls in the infield. They don't get that many balls in the outfield. So like stuff falls and like it puts stress on your pitchers. I do like their additions this offseason. Like I do think they've done like some interesting things addition wise. Like you got Contreras, Urania, they're trying out Nishiguchi in the rotation. I don't know how I feel about that based off your reporting and kind of the conversations that we've had about it. Maybe you should just bring him back to the bullpen. Um Maeda, I mean Fuji, Kishi, like I know you said this before we got on, but like all these teams are going to use like 8 or 9 guys at some point. So it's like, how good is your pitching going to be when you go to like the eighth and ninth guy in your rotation, basically? Even if it's like a small amount of innings, like what will those guys give you? And then yeah, I don't know. Up the middle is kind of a a question mark seems a little mean, but I have my I guess doubts about the up the middle stuff. So I think that's like my biggest thing about Rakuten is just their defense. I do like their additions. I haven't even talked about like McCusker and Azamor is still like he's still a good player. I still think he can hit. I still think he's like a good player in the lineup. And then Luke Voigt, he was one of the better hitters in NPB when he finally got it going. So again, they have like the offensive firepower a little bit to like score some runs. Man, you can't be giving away runs defensively, and you gotta just pitch better. Yeah, Soji like has to be the dude, right? And Hayakawa has to be really good. And we kind of saw up and down stuff from Hayakawa. So yeah, I'm very interested in what the Golden Eagles are gonna do. Like if I set a line for you at like for all these guys, like if I set a line for you, like is that guy gonna get 30 saves? Like Andres Machado, like I think I just mentioned, I think he got 28 saves instead of 31. So it's like all these pitchers in relief, are they gonna get 30 saves? Like if I told you right now, like Fujihara is gonna get like 30 saves, like would you go over or under basically? That kind of tells me like the quality of the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think in terms of like saves and you go down the list with holds. I like Fujihiro for 30 saves. Like I think Fujihiro was underutilized on Samurai Japan. I think he's an absolute dog. But after that, their bullpen does have question marks for me. Like Nishigaki had a good bounce back last year. I like Sora Suzuki a lot actually. Sora Suzuki is one of the best left-handed
Yeah,
relievers in MPB. But after that, I mean, it is kind of thin. Like I got to be honest. Like they need a lot of younger guys to step up. Like Tai is a really young raw kind of reliever who came up in a very small sample, had like a 40% strikeout rate. So I'm very high on Katsunori Tai. Rotation wise, this is like a real test for me as to how much can they really completely reconstruct in one off season, because they were awful in the rotation last year, by far
yeah,
the worst in MPB. But they bring in Urania, they bring in Contreras, Kenta Maeda, Nishiguchi's moving to the rotation. That's such big turnover. And as you mentioned, Nishiguchi in the fifth inning the other day was like down to 87 miles per hour. I'm not sure if he has the stamina, or the poise to really maintain his stuff deep into a game. I kind of like him a little bit more as the eighth or ninth inning guy, but maybe he figures it out. I mean, obviously one of the better fastball shapes in MPB,
yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
love Shoji at the top. Shoji has looked great this spring, and even at times in 2025 and not 2024, but 2023, he was looking like an ace. And then 2024, he looked, I mean, quite frankly, terrible. The command can get away from him. I don't know if he's quite a true ace yet. I'm not ready to call him that, but he definitely has the potential to. And I think Urania is going to be good. Like there is a lot of talk about how this guy his strikeout numbers are pretty poor in MLB despite throwing hard. But look, he does things unique. I mean, you don't really see like a 96 mile per hour like turbo sinker from his slot in
No,
MPB. And Roki Sasaki a couple of years ago with a bad fastball shape was striking out almost 30% of batters in NPB. I'm not saying Urania is Roki Sasaki by any means. The secondaries aren't the same. But Urania, he has decent command, and I think he's actually going to be pretty solid. I'm pretty
yeah,
excited for him. Um, Hitting wise, I think they're pretty good. I mean, they're kind of unique in the way that they approach the game. They take a lot of pitches. They always have pretty high walk rates as a team. They run the bases well. A lot of kind of speedy guys. You did mention up the middle is a concern. I think it really comes down to whether these guys are ready to take that next step, because Kurokawa in a small sample last year hit really, really well. And I think he has the chance to become one of the better second basemen in the league. But, before last year, he had been given plenty of MPB opportunities and give you nothing pretty much. Muneyama, one of the better shortstop prospects in recent MPB history. Is he ready to take that next step? It was a
yeah,
solid rookie year, but not really, as good as many were expecting. Like some people thought Muneyama would be so good right out the gates that he would be the Samurai Japan shortstop for the WBC, and he wasn't
mm,
really that. I also think defensively, he had a little bit of trouble adjusting to the long season, obviously coming straight out of college. And then, you know, outfield, they brought back Tatsumi, who was a free agent. I guess that's fine. Like he is one of their better hitters. I was kind of excited about the prospect of Daisuke Nakashima, who's like an elite corner outfielder. I thought if he just slides in to center, he would lock that down. But I think having Tatsumi back is fine, and then McCusker is big kind of all or nothing type guy, right? I mean, he was running like a 35% K rate in AAA, like a very unconventional signing, I would say, for an MPB team. But also, Japanese teams can take risks on guys like this as opposed to KBO, where you sign a guy, you kind of have to play him. If McCusker's not good, it's okay. Just stash him on the farm and try to develop him a little bit that way. They also got Naoki Sato from the Hawks as a role five guy, um, who hit really well. In limited playing time with the Hawks. He has an off the field issue as well, but yeah, I mean, I think Rakuten's like solid offensively. It's just about how much is the pitching, as this pitching department gets overhauled, how much are they going to be able to improve on what was a very bad staff last season?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen some funky grips from Rakuten before in terms of just like playing around with things. So I think when they close up in Japan, it's like really interesting sometimes when I see like the orientation of how a guy's holding a slider and stuff like that. I've mentioned it before. I've seen a guy on Rakuten like stack the fingers on his slider to try to like really like rip down on the seam. I don't know if I've really seen that like anywhere else. So again, like I think they're playing with like pitching development and like playing with like this different stuff inside of the labs and like figuring grips out and figuring shape and stuff out. And so that's what gives me hope that they're gonna pitch better. I think they're gonna pitch better than they pitched last year, but for them to be better than the fourth best team, they're gonna have to pitch better than they did last year. And if you had to ask me who was going to be third or fourth, I think I'd go Orix just because of the pitching. But I would not be shocked if Rakuten ended up being the third best team in the Pacific League.
Voigt, by the way, is kind of like they picked him out of Mexico, and he's almost their own
Okay.
version of Franmil Reyes. So what a great midseason signing that was. I'll also mention Yuma Godzilla Yasuda. I have very high hopes for him. I mean,
Yeah.
as not just a catcher, but just as a raw slugger in general. He had a problem with his vision last year, and that was really keeping him off the field. But I think in terms of just like his body type and the power that he possesses, YG Yasuda could be very special. Um, let's move on to the Saitama Seibu Lions. This was a honestly not bad year from them in 2025. They were fifth place, but that was a huge improvement from 2024, where they had one of their worst seasons in franchise history. I think, they did a lot of things to build a foundation there for getting better and kind of rebuilding this team. But they were very bad offensively. They were one of the weaker teams in
Yeah.
MPB offensively. And they addressed that. They addressed that over the offseason. They bring in Alexander Canario. They bring in Onkolin, Masayuki Kuwahara, Kazunari Ishii, and then Taiga Kojima was their first round pick. So this is like a huge. We talked about Rakuten having huge turnover in their pitching staff. This is like almost half their starting lineup now is new people, and I'm curious to see how it works out. Obviously, the elephant in the room is that Tatsuya Imai is gone from the rotation. Luckily for them, Kona Takahashi is not. There was a chance that they would lose two of their top starters, but instead it is just their ace Imai out the door. So are they going to be able to cover that? And yeah, I guess the question for me is like the pitching's probably going to be worse, without Imai, who was by all accounts one of the two or three best starters in Japan. So what percentage better does the lineup have to be in order to make up for that in the aggregate?
Yeah. Can I? I'll mention it now. Takazawa moving to short. I don't know. I don't know if he has the arm. I think he does, but I've seen some plays from him where I'm like, this just works better at second base. We all know that Genda, like, for whatever reason, he like performs in WBC and then he gets to NPB and it's just like not the same offense. He like at least he gives you like a good at bat and he does, you know, foul pitches off. He's pesky. Yeah, I guess they're gonna move him to the bench and they're gonna use him as like a late inning sub. Probably move like Takazawa back over across the diamond to second, and then put him at short, or maybe put him at second. Late in games. That I just I do think the offense needs to be better. Clearly from what they were last year, but I do like the additions. Everything that you brought up, like Lin, Tyler Nevin was good last year. Nishikawa, Canario, like, what are you gonna get from Canario in right field? Do you even play Canario in right field the whole time? We'll see that. Like, Tunosaki could play. Like, I do think they have Hagasawara could play a little bit too. Like, I guess we'll see, like, lineup wise, like how good the lineup can be. Yeah, of course the rotation is going to be worse than it was last year. Duh. You're losing Tatsumai. But I'll go ahead and say it, Yuri. Sumida's going to be a top 5 Saramura guy. Like, I really like Chihiro. I think he's nasty. The split is nasty. The changeup's nasty. I really don't care that he doesn't throw his fastball hard with, like, much shape, because he's kind of a demon when it comes to throwing his off-speed pitches. And then you get Kairataro back in the rotation. You get Kona Takahashi. Can he have a bounce back? Can Watanabe have a bounce back in the rotation? Bo Takahashi, like, what are you going to get from him out of the pen? I do like Winginter. I think he's good. I think he
But
kind of
he's
creates.
nasty.
Yeah, he creates some sink on the ball. Yeah, I really like him. Kano's good. Like Yamada. Like, I think there's enough. Like, I think they have the pitching. It's just like, can you score enough runs from the offense? Does Watanabe at third base, like, does he perform well enough? Like, this is like my kind of like question marks about them solely is like the offensive production. I'm not worried about the defense. I'm not worried about the pitching. Like, can they offensively produce enough runs to win games? I think my answer would be no, but I'm excited that, like you said, they went out and basically, like, redid their entire lineup. Like, what other teams are doing that? Like, what other teams are like, we gotta shake things up. Like, we gotta do something different. So I appreciate that type of aspect from it. Because honestly, when they posted Kona and Imai together, I wrote this in, like, reports. Like, it felt like they were punting the season. They were like, oh, whatever. Like, we're not really going to do anything. And with their offensive acquisitions, their offensive acquisitions, like, in the offseason, like, at least to me, it signals like, hey, we're not punting the season, at least, like, we're trying here. So I can give Seibu, like, that credit in terms of, like, they're trying something different. Like, you're not just gonna do the same thing over again and think that you're, like, gonna
Yeah.
all of a sudden have success.
I like that they reinvested that Imai posting fee immediately back into the team. And, if they ran out with the same exact group as last year, they would be probably a last place team. But they actually made, you know, kind of shrewd signings. But I also think there is risk with like almost all of them. Like
Yeah.
Canario and Lin, like if they click, these are 20 plus homer potential, but they're also like, I guess Canario's not that bad defensively, but also like I don't think he's great. Lin, with any CPBL hitter, I need to see it to believe it because there's no real track record of CPBL guys doing that well in Japan. Kuwahara is an interesting one because
Hmm.
he was mostly a center fielder for DeNA. He's going to be in a corner now. I like him. Like he's like average to above average with the bat, but like, is he good enough for a corner? I'm not sure. And then even Ishii had his best season last year with the Fighters, but he is a pure platoon. He cannot hit lefties. He is a righty masher. So you were mentioning the Takizawa Genda thing earlier. I think that kind of sorts itself in the way that Ishii just sits against
That's a
lefties. You
fair
put
point.
Takizawa in
Yeah.
there. Genda can play a little bit more short. Um, you know, I, I think it is like the right time, basically, to let Takizawa take over as like the next, franchise shortstop, just because clearly defensively, I mean, he won Fielding Bible Defensive Player of the
Yeah,
Year,
he's
right? I mean,
good.
he is an absolute beast up the middle. He can also play a little bit of third. I do agree that second base is where he shines. He's super tiny. He doesn't necessarily have like, a cracked out arm, but the way he just gets the balls and just the fluidity that he has, he's pretty special.
It's kind of like a Ginda-esque way he, like, plays the position. Like, both of those guys really don't have that strong of an arm. It's about getting the ball out of their glove as quick as possible. Like, they have quick
Yeah,
triggers.
yeah,
They
yeah.
kind of get to. They can throw from, like, different positions too. Like, I mean, you can't really show it on video, but like the arm utility to be able to throw from like all these different spots, like that's what kind of makes them special as defenders. And so I do think Takazawa can play short at the NPB level. I'm not saying that he can't. I'm just saying I've seen some highlights even in spring training where it's like, okay, he like three hop that ball to first base because he's trying to get the ball out of his glove as quick as he can because he knows his he knows his arm isn't that good. So yeah, I do like it. Like I do think this team like has a chance to be good if they like score enough runs. And I guess I'm gonna ask you, like, do you think they're gonna be like timely hitting enough? Do you think they're gonna get guys in scoring position enough to like actually score enough runs to like be successful this season?
I think one of the X factors is Seiya Watanabe because early in 2025, he was a rookie of the year front runner. He was playing outfield. Now he moves to third, which is a position he played back in college. He
Yeah.
needs to be like, middle of the lineup threat. Because you have Nevin, yes, although he's, I think, banged up to start the year, so he might miss opening day. But, you know, Mane and Ishikawa in center field, elite defender, and getting better with the bat to where he can be like a premier table setter. And then, one of these guys you sign like Canario, Lin, Kuwahara, Ishii, you expect them to factor into, you know, top of the lineup in some aspect. Um, so then to me, it comes down to like, where's the power production coming from outside of Nevin? Again, it could be Onko Lin just like, is really good. Could be Canario is really good. But I want somebody who's a little bit more stable. And I think Seiya Watanabe could be that guy. I don't think Seibu's quite ready to take that next step this year because, it's a lot of changes all at once. Plus, rotation is thin. I mean, quite frankly, it is. Like Sumida Taira, I love them. Natsuki Takeuchi, rookie of the year a few years ago, not good last year. Can he bounce back? And then after that, I mean, it's just like I like Shinya Sugai. I love Hibiki Shinohara as like a top prospect, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure like, what he can give you as a rookie. And then after that, I just don't know. Like I don't know what they're getting in terms of reliable innings. And obviously with Tyra moving out of the bullpen, that also hurts them in the late innings. Wingenter and Kaino are fine, I think. And Yamada was great as a rookie, but what's Ramirez given you? What's Alan Winans given you? Is Shinosuke
Mm.
Hata ready to take that next step? I just think they're a little bit raw, and this is still another transition slash developmental year for, we're 2027. Like next year at this time, we'll really know, like, okay, which of these bats are legit, and how their rotation's going to look, especially if like Tyra and Kona are going, out the door themselves for MLB. Let's finish off in the Pacific League with the Chiba Lotte Marines. They were last place last season. A little bit disappointing, obviously, because just 2 years ago they were in the postseason. Just not very good on any facet of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very poor offensively, very poor pitching, and defense was below average as well. What do you make of Lotte? And I guess like what even is the ceiling for this team?
Can we just talk about Tanichi for like 5 minutes? Like no, that sounds rude. Yeah, what is the ceiling? I think Tanichi has to win like the majority of his starts. You probably have to win the majority of Tanaka's starts. And then like what are you getting from Jackson and Ojima in the rotation? Um I just I don't know how I feel about the lineup. Like I do think Polanco is good. Um you won't see me talk bad about Gregory Polanco. I think that dude can still hit the baseball, still hit it hard. I don't know. I just have question marks about some of like the other guys in the lineup in terms of being able to produce. Um, Neftali Soto, like he's good in spurts, I think. And he shows flashes of being really, really good, and then it kind of like falls off a little bit.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah,
he's very old now too.
and it's just like he's getting up there in age, and like that's I guess my biggest question mark is the lineup, and like when I look at like across the board, like Nishikawa, Takabe, like Fujiwara in the outfield, like Yamamoto at third, like I don't know, man. Like I don't see where the offensive production is coming from, and I almost think like when it comes to the rotation, like you have to win basically every like Tanichi start, and you probably have to win like most of your Tanaka starts to even really have a legitimate chance to like push yourself out of the cellar even. And I know that sounds like very dark and kind of depressing to say, but like I'm I'm just it's just how I feel about this team. Like you're gonna have to win what 40 games from really those two guys starting. Maybe Jackson like gives you some innings there too. It's like I just I'm just not I'm not bought in on the rotation as a whole, but I really like Tanichi, and I've been saying it for a while. Like he's a top 5 pitcher in Japan right now. He just is, and I think we saw at the WBC. He's got that demon split that kind of like drives off his fastball. Kind of has shows that depth. I mean, he doesn't even need other pitches. He can just throw a fastball split and dominate dudes. And yeah, I'm excited to see like what he can do this next season. Because does that sound mean to say? Like if he starts 27 games, you got to win 21 of them. Like to really like push yourself out of the cellar. I mean, that's what it feels like.
I mean, I think you're probably right. Like, they just don't have much in the way of depth. And I think I actually am a little bit higher on the offense, but I'm more worried about the pitching because
Yeah.
Taneichi and Haruya Tanaka, beautiful 1-2 punch. I mean, we're talking ace upside. We're talking some of the best pitchers in Japan. Jackson, second half last year with DeNA, started to kind of fall off. The strikeout rate wasn't great. Can he bounce back? Probably yes. Like, I mean, I think the stuff is still like above average for him. So I like that. Like, that's not a bad like
That's a
front
good
line.
3.
But Ojima, who like the fans love, I get it. He's like a workhorse, but his home run rates, his stuff, it's just not very exciting. Um, Kaito Mori, their second round pick, looks like he's going to make the opening day rotation. I love the changeup. Like, I think he could be interesting. Kimura is another young guy. After that, I mean, my goodness, like the rotation really thins out. There's just not much there. Bullpen, same thing. I mean, are we talking about Naoya Masuda still like trying to be the closer? Like,
Yeah.
250 saves, I get it, but that's not, he's not really that guy anymore. I like Yokoyama. I mean, Takano was great as a rookie last year. Nakamori, same thing. And they bring in Castillo and Long, but once again, like I don't know if any of those guys are like not great. I don't really see like who's the next person that steps up.
I feel like we're being
Offensively,
negative.
yeah,
Sell me on the lineup. Like sell me
yeah.
on the
Well,
lineup here.
lineup, I just think they're like young and they have this core here in Misho Nishikawa, in Takabe, in Daito Yamamoto, and in Terachi, who was 19 years old behind the plate last year and hitting like league average. I think that's a lot they can build off of. Misho Nishikawa to me is already like top 50 NPB player caliber. I mean, he had like what 25, 30 defensive runs saved in the outfield. I mean, he is just a
I think
superb
people are gonna
glove.
stop running on him. By the way, like he's gonna get the Minami stuff, where people are
Great
gonna stop
arm as
running on him.
well.
Yeah.
And second half of the season, he started to hit. So I think Nishikawa is probably the best player on this team. Takabe's, injury prone, but when he's on, like he's among the better, like, table setters in MPB. Fujiwara also, I will say, like former top prospect, is finally starting to like come along a little bit. But the guy that I'm definitely focused on the most is Yamamoto. Daito Yamamoto, Dynamite Yamamoto. He kills Trevor Bauer. I mean, we saw him hit multiple home runs off him. He has light tower power. The pull air percentage stuff is really good. Third base defensively, I'm not quite sure. I've only really seen him play mostly outfield. But yeah, and then it's these veterans in Soto and Polanco. Like, how much juice do they have left? Like, I almost think they needed to go out and get like one more foreign bat just to kind of
Yeah.
sure things up. Which is why I'm not sure they're ready to compete at a high level in 2026. Like, I think they could have kept one of them, and I would have kept Soto. Polanco, I just don't know. Like last year, he gave them nothing. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he was
He was hitting
one of the better
bombs.
sluggers
Yeah.
in MPB. I just don't know if he earned that extension. But if it clicks, and I should mention Koki Yamaguchi too. He had a 3 homer game last year. Like, they have quite a bit in the way of explosiveness, and I think they can get better like collectively. So I wouldn't be shocked if the offense gets like 10% better.
Mm.
But the pitching is still completely up in the air for me. I just don't really. I think it's the worst bullpen in MPB, and I think outside of Tanaichi and Tanaka, they're going to have a lot of trouble, um, getting like consistent quality starts. I think they're like not terrible, but they're not going to be doing what SoftBank or Nipponham or Orix, their top guys, can do. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit closer to um, Rakuten, except like Rakuten has so much turnover that there's just a little bit more of like that mystery box where it's like, ooh, what are we going to get here? Like, can they,
The
pull
Family
something out of the
Guy
hat?
meme, a box could be a boat. Yeah, it's like it could be anything. It's
Exactly,
like yeah,
right?
it's like
Like
yeah.
I don't really see that with Lotte in the same way, apart from Mori and Kimura, who I genuinely think could take a step forward. But I think they're a last place team, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe I was just sounding a little too hard. Like I do like Nishikawa, and I know he popped in our DRS stuff. Um, yeah, I think he's a good defender. It's just like the consistency aspect, and like now that people like know you're good, and like let's say you're in this lineup and you're getting pitched to, it's like okay, now they know you're good. Like how do you like combat that where like maybe teams pitch around you a little bit? Um, yeah, Yamamoto. Honestly, the corners are just very interesting to me. Like, again, I'll say it again. I'll never say something bad about Gregory Polanco because I do think there is a chance he like hits 20 bombs again, 15 bombs again, like he figures it out a little bit. But there's also a chance he just gives them nothing again. It's a lot to ask to get to 60 wins, I guess, is my biggest takeaway. So yeah, I'm just very interested in like how they're gonna look as a team in the rotation kind of.
All right, let's move on to the Central League, and this time we'll start backwards. So with the worst team last season, the Tokyo Cold Swallows. This is probably the worst team in NPB, unfortunately, and they lost Munetaka Murakami on top of it. So I don't think it's going to get all that much better in 2026, but it's all about the mindset and the mentality. You come into this year
Vibes.
knowing it's a developmental year transition. I think they can get a little bit more than you would expect. I just think it's going to be really tough for them to do anything like at a competitive level. Like again, that sounds kind of harsh, but it's just like where is the offense coming from? Where is the pitching coming from? Tetsuda Yamada, longtime second baseman, future Hall of Famer, he's moving to the hot corner. They have Soma Uchiyama, former catcher, former outfielder, moving to shortstop. They're trying everything, and they have a new manager now in Takahiro Ikeyama. Change the vibes from Shingo Takatsu. Yasutaka Shiomi, if he's healthy, then I still think he's one of the better hitters in the league. But I mean, he hasn't been healthy in like 3 years. And then they still have the foreign, the tandem in Santana and Osuna who have some pop, but they have been trending pretty hard downward. So I don't love the offense. I guess Nagaoka is somewhat exciting in the sense that he was batting title contender a few years ago at short, moving over to second now. I think he's going to be better defensively. I think he could just focus a little bit more on what he can provide offensively, and he has some sneaky pop too. So like I wouldn't be shocked if Nagaoka turns into one of the better players on this team, but I just, Kitamura, Keigo Kitamura in a small sample look last year looked really good. Ayuto Matsushita is their first round pick. Like there are pieces here that I'm excited about for the future, but it's not quite yet in 2026.
Yeah. I'm not gonna, beat the drum that much. What can you get from the rotation? Yoshimura, Takahashi, Okagawa, Aoyagi being on this team. Can you get something? Can you get something from him? Like, yeah, the Kiata kind of interesting to me. I don't know, Lorenzo. Like, I guess I see it. Yeah, Yamada. I really like Yamada. Like, I like Yamada back in the day. Like, I would say like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Yamada was a dude. So I don't wanna like harp on it too much. I do think what can you get from that foreign duo? What can you get from that tandem of Santana and Ozuna? I think if those guys play better, just period, then I think you give yourself a shot. But I also understand like from a Yakult perspective, look, we just got rid of Murakami. We didn't get that much money back for him. Like, let's hit the reset button for another year. Let's just try to see if we can figure some things out and just see if like that works, and then we can start going for it again in like a year or two. I think that's completely fine. I don't think they need to like drastically do something different as an organization. Like, it is what it is. Like, you post Murakami, you give him, like, you respect him, you give him his wishes to be posted MLB, and it's kind of sad you don't make that much money back from him, but like, it is what it is. And at this point, like, I feel like you just kind of have to hit the reset button as an organization, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. And yeah, I think they're the clear, to me, worst team in the league, but can they get to 60 wins? Like, that would be an improvement from last year, and I'd be here for them getting to 60 wins. So I think that's kind of the benchmark that I'd be looking at. Can they go 60 and 84 kind of, or 60 and 83?
Yeah,
Kind of get that many games.
they just weren't great last year when Murakami was injured, and I guess the positive thing I'll say about them is I think the pitching actually is improving. Like, if this was this pitching with the offense they had 4 years ago, I think this would be an easy playoff contender. Like, Kojiro Yoshimura, is he ace caliber? No, but I think he's fine. Like, he's a very good pitcher. Keiji Takahashi, when he's healthy,
Yeah,
is ace caliber, and then Okugawa, I'm still waiting. Like, can we see the Okugawa
give
of
it to me.
2020? Of the Okugawa that was on the same prospect tier as Roki Sasaki, just in a different way. He was a command guy. He was this elite talent. I mean, his secondaries, the curveball. We haven't quite seen him get back to that level, but he was healthy last year for the first time in a long time, and I'm excited. Yuto Nakamura, first round pick from 2 years ago. I love him. I love the upside that he gives. Yamano also has been all right. So I think this will be a big year to really kind of understand who is going to become the next face of this franchise. Kind of, Yamada is getting up there in age. Murakami's gone. Santana and Osuna, these are their final years. Who's going to step up, both offensively, and then who's going to be in the rotation for them once they do get competitive, say in 2 or 3 years. I think that's really what 2026 is going to tell you. And we move on then to the Hiroshima Carp, who were right down there with the Swallows last year. Unfortunately, I mean, it was not a good season for them. They started pretty okay, but in July they just fell off a cliff, and that's kind of been their story of the last 2 years. Is they have these like collapses where they just win like 5 games all month. That was July for them last year. It was September for them in 2024, where they were actually
Yeah,
in the pennant race, and then they just fell boom down to the bottom, and that kind of gave DeNA a lane to make this Cinderella run. But I don't know. Like, I think Hiroshima, their roster on paper, it's not bad, and yet I just don't really see like a high ceiling for them. Like, I just think they're solid, but they're just I'm not sure where they can get production to where they thrust themselves really into the the playoff race, let alone the pennant race.
yeah. I'll say this: they're the type of team to me that they're gonna play teams close. If they don't make mistakes, if they do everything right, they're gonna be in a pennant race. And we kind of saw that. Like, if they play up to like what, like, I guess I kind of outplay themselves a little bit, but if they keep things close in games, play well fundamentally, they're gonna be in like a pennant race sometimes, and then you're gonna see like some of that talent drop off a little bit. Then yeah, you're gonna see them at the bottom of the table. So to me, I kind of like the lineup. Like, I know Kuzono like is a butcher at shortstop. Like, I totally get it, but that dude can put bat to ball and he can hit the ball. Kikuchi, I think he's like a good second baseman. Montero, like, what are you gonna get from him? Sakura, like, what are you gonna get from him behind the plate? Um, yeah, uh, dare I say Morishita has to be like a dude again, like Masato, like he has to like be a guy. Like, I think for this team to go anywhere, they need their rotation, really the top 4 guys. I'm going to add Tarnock in that conversation too. They have to pitch their asses off. I I I've been just like waiting for Marishita to like kind of put it back together, and I don't know what it is. Like, he doesn't really like throw that hard, but he cuts the ball too. He throws like this slutter that he throws. I kind of like him, and then I kind of am like, no, I see like why he's not like why he hasn't been like that great. So I go back and forth on him, and then our favorite, Dakota, because everyone likes to ask us about Hiroki. Yeah, he's gonna have to pitch well again too. Like, I'll flat out say it. The palm ball is good. Like, it is a good pitch. I mean, that's why he's successful. Like, he spots his pitches. He throws the palm ball well. Like, look, it is what it is. Like, I think that's what they're gonna do. It's not gonna look flashy on paper, but they're gonna be the type of team that sticks around in games. And if they fundamentally play well at the end of games and don't make mistakes, they're gonna put pressure on teams, and that's how they're gonna win games. And that's why they're gonna be in like the top 3 conversation of the table. If they're not, then you're gonna see this team right next to Yakult in terms of the bottom of the table. You just are.
Yeah, I think so. You talked about the infield. I actually quite like the outfield in terms of Sandro
Yeah,
Fabian in his first season last year. It was kind of unconventional. He signed a multi-year deal as a first-year player in Japan, which is
and he was good.
highly, yeah, and he was very good. I mean, not necessarily defensively, but as a hitter, absolutely. Small fall off in the second half, but I think that's all right. He can readjust. Ren Hirakawa looks like a stud so far as a rookie in spring. Obviously, who knows if that carries over into the regular season? But I will say switch hitter, which is very unique in MPB. And I'm just excited to see if Hirakawa can like hold down center field. And then you have like Shosei Nakamura, who finally broke through last year after he's been a top prospect for so many years. He was a catcher, now playing outfield, and he looked very solid on both sides of the ball. Honestly, probably this team's star player at this point in time. Suikane also has a little bit of power. He'll factor into the outfield mix still. Um, I do think though, and I know you said you like Kikuchi. I liked Kikuchi, but I liked him like 5 years ago. I think like he is on the way out. Defensively, still, he makes highlight reel plays still, and he's getting
Yeah,
up there in age, so I'm impressed. But it kills them that Hatsuki has been released with an off the field issue because I think Hatsuki was trending towards becoming this team's next second baseman, fast, good kind of bat to ball. But he has been released due to drugs. So, I just think if it's another year of like Kikuchi at second, plus like, you're almost forcing Kozono to short just because Masayano can't hit. Yano is a great defender. Like in an ideal world, it would be like, you know, Kozono at second, I think Yano at short. I think that would kind of solve some of their problems. And then Tai Sasaki, as a rookie last year, if he builds on his the foundation that he got last year, I think they can be an okay lineup. I'm still quite high on Shogo Sakakura myself, but let me ask you about the rotation. I mean, have you ever seen like a staff that just has like no swing and miss upside? I mean, like Morishita,
I'll make the
Tokuda,
answer quickly.
Osera, these are
No,
like, yeah, right? Like these are like sub 17% strikeout rate
even
guys, and they're
Tarnock.
heading your
I don't think
rotation.
Tarnock can get strikeouts. Like, but this is kind of my point. Is like, are they gonna play defense well enough? Like behind them, with the ball's put in play, are you gonna play defense well enough to like win games? I guess it's kind of my point. Um, I get your point with Kikuchi. It's just every time I see him, I'm like, there's just like a flash of like, oh, okay, like that was what he was 5 years ago. But I'll ask you this: do you almost put Yano at shortstop and just move Kazona to second? Like, I feel like that's gonna be the move at some point for this team. And
Yeah.
again, I just like, okay, so the ball gets put on the ground. Do I trust this team to convert it into an out? The answer is maybe not, considering I guess it depends on where the ball is hit, if I'm being honest. So that's why I'm kind of like worried about this team
So
as a whole.
yeah, with Kozono, I almost think like you would be doing him a disservice if you just don't commit to him at a position at this point, because they have been moving him every single year looking for where the fit is. And quite frankly, he hasn't had a fit because he's just not good defensively wherever you put him. Second, third, short. Um, 2 years ago, they nominated Rui Minayama with their first round pick, which caught a lot of people by surprise. It was like, oh, what are you going to do with Yano? Like, is Kozono, out of the infield now? Is he moving to the outfield? Um, I think at this point, you just have to tell Kozono, hey, you have to improve defensively. Like, there's no way around this. You have to improve defensively at short. And I think in terms of like his athleticism, in terms of
Yeah,
his
I'll say that.
prospect pedigree from back in the day. Like I think he does have that ability. He just, some of the moves there haven't been great. Maybe it's like a coaching thing, but um yeah,
Like, you
go
see the
ahead.
traits, like, you notice just, like, you see the traits where you're like, "This guy's athletic enough where, like, he should play with enough rhythm and timing to be a good defender." And, I mean, flat out, I've watched it because 'cause I'm like, "Why are defensive run save numbers so bad for him?" And then you see it and you're like, "He doesn't play with rhythm and timing. He doesn't field the ball well enough, like he doesn't play with one hand well enough either. Like he doesn't work through the ball to put himself into position to make throws." And it's like you just can't have that if you're like watching a guy play shortstop. And so I remember someone at our company asked me about they were like, "What, you really like?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like I think like they should just play him at shortstop and just like deal with the fact that maybe he's not gonna like offensively produce. Like it just is what it is." I'd almost think I'd rather have that than have him play like defensively,
Yeah.
or like
He's
not
like
even
their
not even be on the field, like be on the bench.
Yano is kind of like their Takizawa, right? Just a guy who's just like all glove. They call him the Red Ninja, and yeah, I mean he looks really exciting with his defensive highlights. I'll just finish with the pitching again. I'm excited about Roji Kuribayashi moving into the rotation just from a standpoint of like, I'm curious, can he be their best starter?
Yeah.
Just because I'm not that high on Marishita and Tokoda and Osira anymore. And Tamamura has good underlying stuff, but he had the worst surface level results last year. So I don't even know if he's going to be in the rotation. And then bullpen wise, like it's it's pretty good. Like Shimauchi, Hearn, Poirier, Kurahara, they're solid. Moriura is good as well, although I'm not always the biggest fan of like a lefty closer who's not like absolutely, blowing you away in terms of like velocity. So I think that could be a small problem. I don't know. Where do you have them finishing in the standings? Because I'm leaning towards fifth, and I'm not even putting it past them to finish in last. But I've said this about Hiroshima in many previous years, and then they surprise me and punch above their weight.
So that's why I'm gonna have them finishing fourth. I think they just figure something out in terms of like they win close games. They just seem like that type of team where they win close games. Every time I see them playing close games, I'm like, oh, here comes a win. Like they're just gonna figure it out. That didn't happen down the stretch, obviously, and they fell apart. But like you mentioned it in previous years, they've kind of been able to do that. Can I just real quickly bring up Akiyama? I feel like they played Akiyama more than they wanted to last year, and he wasn't that good. But what happens if they have to play a guy like that more? Like that's where I'm like questioning them being a fourth place team. I guess. Like, what happens if there's an injury in the outfield and they have to go like Akiyama? Like, I guess I'll ask you this too. Like, we already talked about Fabian a little bit, but like what is Fabian's ceiling in like NPB? Like if this team is going to be a third or fourth place team, like how good does Fabian have to be almost?
Yeah, I think Fabian kind of needs to be their star. Like 17 homers last year with a 125 WRC plus. Like that's a good player, but he was almost like the new Domingo Santana, just in the way that he was giving you no defense. So like he's not going to be racking up WAR by any means. But that's
Yeah,
fine. I think more so for this team, what's important is they just get like consistent power production, because I mean they have been towards the very bottom of the home run
I
leaderboards
also
as
don't
a
like the
team.
ballpark they play in terms of hitting the ball
Yes,
out either.
it's
So
a pitcher's park as well. So yeah, I mean Fabian, Tai Sasaki, Kozono, Sakakura, Shosei Nakamura, they have the makings of a nice core now, but whether they can actually unlock everyone and they can complement each other, I'm not that confident about that. We move on to the Chunichi Dragons, who were in fourth place last year, a little bit below average in, kind of everything. But I think they're trending upward. I think Chunichi genuinely have a chance to end their decade long playoff drought this season. And, they've had a lot of problems with management. They've had a lot of problems with like developing players. But when I look at this team's offense, I'm like pretty excited about it. I mean, you're talking about Seiya Hosokawa being one of the best sluggers in NPB. You're talking about Yuki Okabayashi being one of the best bat to ball guys in NPB. I mean, what a great complementary piece that is. And then Seiji Uebayashi coming back from SoftBank last year had a big renaissance. And then you add to that like Kenta Bright, who I still am like super high on as like
Hmm.
a prospect with a lot more to tap into that has like this Chusei Manami type upside if he can go supernova. I think infield wise, Miguel Sano comes in. Does he stay healthy? Does he rake? I mean,
Does he
that's a huge
mash?
question mark.
Yeah.
Can he mash? I think he can, but will he? Based on the swing and miss and based on the injury, Vossler I think is a little bit banged up right now, but I like that corner infield duo. Up the middle, a little bit skeptical in terms of like you know Fukunaga was, looking really good 2 years ago, but then he missed almost all of last season. Like, how much more does Mikia Tanaka continue to factor in? And then shortstop is just a complete question mark for me. Like Muramatsu, another guy who at one point looked like he would be this team's like next big shortstop. Um, didn't really do it last year. Yamamoto is good defensively. That's kind of it. Um, but yeah, before we get to the pitching, don't do you look at this as a playoff caliber lineup?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. When you look at the corners and you go, oh wow, Yubayashi is going to hit 15 to 20 bombs, and Hosokawa is going to hit 20 bombs. That's a lot of power production from the corners in an NPB lineup. I think this team's good enough to mash. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if Miguel Sano hits 25, like let's say he strikes out, but he hits 25, Yuri, let's do the math. That's what? That's 60 bombs right there. So yeah, I think this lineup is good enough. Um, yeah, I like this lineup. Like I'll just flat out say it. I like the outfield. I think the addition of Sano, I don't care if he strikes out. I really don't. I want him to mash. I want him to hit 25, 30 bombs. Like I I need it like I need air to breathe, you know? Um so yeah, I think this team is good enough. Like I do. I think the lineup is good. And I didn't even bring up Kenta Bright, who you like Bright? I like Bright. Like I think Bright's a good player. Like I wonder if they're gonna get him into lineup. They have to get him in lineup, right? From like a platoon standpoint, you got to find that guy at bats. So how good is the rotation then gonna be? But I think the lineup's good enough. Like I really do. I think they're gonna mash the baseball a little bit, which is fun.
Bright and Hosokawa have both looked really good in spring, and yeah, I mean they have to find a way to get Bright just more playing time. I don't care if it's like platooning with Uebayashi or what, but like last year, I mean they were like using him as a quote unquote like secret weapon as a pinch hitter, and I'm just like, come on, man, you're wasting this poor young guy's talent. Like either just keep him on the farm and let him get everyday ABs or just use him. Because I mean the production numbers were really good. We get into the pitching, and that's where in the past, Chunichi was like a pure, like, you know, pitching first team, and then they would just lag behind completely offensively. But now, especially with the fences coming in, I almost feel like it's going to be the other way around where I'm not exactly sure they have enough pitching. Like, I'm so bought into Chunichi potentially being like a top two team this year, but then I look at the rotation and I get worried because, look, I love Hiroto Takahashi. I love Yumeto Kanemaru, but are either of them in 2026 like a true ace? I don't think so. Takahashi still needs to show more in terms of bouncing back. He has the fastball shape problem. He has the splits against lefties problem, and then Kanemaru is still young. I think he's ready for that next step, but we got to first see it. And then after that, I mean, it just kind of thins out with a lot of these veterans like Yuya Yanagi, who by the way has looked terrible in spring training, Yudai Ono, Hideaki Wakui. Like that's a lot of just like older guys that have the smarts to pitch, but I don't necessarily want to see them. Matsuba, same thing, like pitch to contact. Kyle Muller, I think there's a little bit more they can unlock from him. And then Masaki Nakanishi, their first round pick last year. I think he is kind of the X factor here, where if Nakanishi does the Kanemaru thing where he joins the rotation right away and he's giving you, you know, 15 to 20 starts of high quality innings, then yeah, I mean they have the makings of a nice kind of front three there. Abreu, by the way, pitched for Team DR in the WBC, and I kind of figured when they signed him he would be more of a reliever because that's what he was doing with Seibu a couple years ago. But if he wants to start, then he's another kind of upside play. So yeah, what do you think about their rotation? And is Hiroto and Kanemaru like kind of spearheading this rotation? Is that going to be enough?
Yeah, I think from like a standpoint of like the rotation, I think like Takahashi, I just need him to bounce back a little bit. I don't know if the fastball is going to be good enough, but I do think he can bounce back a little. And then like for me, like Kanemaru, like I think he's good. Like I think the command is really, really good. I think the off speeds are really good. Can he take that step forward? And then I like Yanagi. I think Yanagi's like a good pitcher. I think Ono's a good pitcher, like kind of like innings eaters, kind of like middle of the rotation guys. And then yeah, like Muller, like kind of his first season in NPB, like I kind of liked him a little bit in terms of like what I saw of him at least. So it's like, can he like parlay that into like a successful second season and stuff like that? Like that's what I'm like. I think the top two guys in Kanemaru and Takahashi need to be really, really good. But then can you get like the innings eating type of stuff from like the 3, 4, 5? Yeah, I like the lineup a lot. Like I mean I like the lineup a lot and I like the rotation a lot if I'm being honest.
Can I ask you about Muller? Do you think so? When he signed, we're talking like tall, kind of lanky southpaw, higher delivery. Like I was thinking, Foster Griffin is like the guy that he
Yeah.
should, kind of emulate. What is he missing to take that next step? I think he throws a kick change now as well. So I'm quite high on what Muller can do. I'm very happy they brought him back. It would be easy for a lot of other MPB teams to say, "Hey, you weren't that good in your first year. Bye bye." But I think they actually have faith in Muller. The Chunichi kind of pitching department do. So is Muller maybe the guy that can step up and be one of their front three?
Yeah, the thing with Muller is interesting. Like he's a former Braves farmhand, so I've seen him quite a bit in terms of like him just like pitching as a younger kid and just like figuring things out in the Braves minor system, and then coming into the majors and kind of being a part of a trade to Oakland and trying to figure it out. I don't think he spins the baseball the way Whitley can, but I do think body type wise and like how he can throw, I do think like you can tap into a little bit there and like see if that works out. So I do like Muller from the standpoint of like I do think if you give him a sinker, if you give him like a fastball that he can like kind of throw hard like mid 90s, I think that's like going to be his sweet spot. Is if he's like sitting mid 90s, kind of has the two different fastballs, then can you find like the breaking pitch off of it and stuff like that? Like that's where I need Chunichi to like not fix him per se in terms of like, hey, you need to add a pitch or do anything like this. It's kind of just tell him like, hey, if you're throwing mid 90s with two different fastballs and then you have like a couple of breakers or like a off speed pitch, like that's good enough to succeed not only in NPB but like in most places around the world. So it's like, can you figure that part out of it? Like I that's where I'm like kind of bought into them because I'm like, okay, like if Muller's like your 5 or 4, then like okay, like that's good, especially if Ono and Yanagi are like good. But like I almost think Muller has to be like their 3, like the production wise, like he has to be that good. So yeah, I like Muller a lot, like I really do. I just wonder if like from a standpoint of can you figure out like the fastball shapes and then can you get to like a breaking ball and off speed pitch that like actually works? I mean, if we're being pretty upfront about it, it was a 79 ERA plus last year. So again, it wasn't a good season, but like I think there was building blocks. You saw it where like he could build on to like a second season, and I think that's why like he's back. Like that's why he's not gone for a reason. So yeah, I don't know. Like if I'm looking at the walk percentage, 6.4. Like he didn't walk guys. Like he's throwing strikes. He just under 20% strikeout. Like I think it's more about just like limiting damage and finding a way to like limit base runners and making like the critical pitch in an inning. I think is the
Yeah.
biggest thing for
Eh,
me. Like, do you think Kane Mara is gonna like take that step forward? I guess I'll go to you if you have any more thoughts on Muller. Like continue that, but I'm kind of
yeah.
interested in Kane Mara
Well, yeah,
too.
with Mueller, I think he had a rough start to the year.
Yeah,
He got better and kind of more comfortable as the year went on. Kanemaru has every potential to be better than Hiroto this year, I think. Like it wouldn't shock me at all if Kanemaru ends up being their ace as opposed to Takahashi. And we saw in the WBC he only got one outing and it was against Czech Republic, so I know it's not great competition, but 5 strikeouts in 2 innings, the fastball shape looked nutty, and
yeah,
I love his breakers.
it
So,
could look good.
I've loved Kanemaru since he was in college. I think he's pretty special. And then just quickly touching on the bullpen, it's a good bullpen. I mean, Shinya Matsuyama, 47 saves, tied for the NPB lead. Tatsuya Shimizu, a little bit of a different flavor, more of a ground ball pitcher, a guy who can kind of come in and even in the middle of an inning, get you a big double play. And then they got guys like Katsuno and Fujishima who throw pretty hard. I think I'm curious about Akira Neo, who is
Yeah,
former top
Neo.
prospect, kind of like two-way player ish shortstop, who's now just like a pure reliever. Um, I think he's fun. So and he's kind of short and just unconventional kind of frame. So um, they have pieces there for sure. I am almost willing to commit to Chunichi being second place this year, but
Say they're a
because
playoff
of my
team.
concerns
Yeah.
with the pitching, I'll say third. What do you
Okay.
think in terms of where they finish?
Yeah, I almost want to say they're a playoff team, like, but then I'm like, man, is something gonna go wrong and they're like the fourth place team? I have it right now down as I have them as the fourth place team right now. Oh, sorry, the fifth place team. But I could totally see them being the second best team in this division. Like that's like in this league, I think. Yeah, I think they could totally be
Yeah,
better than
I think the
Yokohama
gap is
and
pretty tiny.
Yomiuri.
So,
Yeah, I think the gap is tiny enough where it's like, yeah, I could see them ranging from like 2 to 5, which I think is kind of weird to like think about, but like the range is small enough where like, yeah, I could see things breaking their way, especially if Mueller ends up being like a dude. I will say this, like he was throwing 92 last year, but he would like touch mid 90s. Man, if he could sit like 93, like 94, 95, like God, that would really help him out. Even if he was sitting like 93, 94, like that extra tick or two, I almost want to buy into him, like you were saying, like he was bad and like kind of at the beginning of the year and then kind of started to figure it out. I almost want to buy into him being like a 115, 120 ERA plus, Like I kind of want to buy into him being good. And I think if he's that good, then yeah, you could see them being the second or third best team in this league.
and I think that transitions well to Yomiuri because they're also a team with a lot of import pitchers in their rotation. They snuck in just above 500 as the 3 seed
Yeah,
in the CL last year, and they were pretty good across the board. One of the better defensive teams in the league. They pitched pretty well. Hit just enough, even with Kazuma Okamoto being out for 3 months. Didn't run the bases all that well, but I'll start with the pitching. There are definitely holes here because, if we're
sure.
talking last year, like Shosei Togo as the ace and then Foster Griffin as the two, like you're feeling really good. Now it's like, okay, Iori Yamasaki is their new ace. Can Shosei Togo bounce back? And then what are they getting from this, hodgepodge of foreigners they brought in Forrest Whitley, in Spencer Howard, in Brian Mata? In spring training, all of these guys have been just sort of doing like bulk innings in any role, like whether it's starting or like 3 innings of relief. I think they're just trying to figure out like who has the ability to be in this team's rotation. We know rookie Kazuyuki Takemaru has been named the opening day starter, so they're really putting a lot of faith in Takemaru from the left side. From the little bit I've seen of him, I think he's good. He comes out of industrial ball, so he's a little bit more experienced against higher level competition compared to certain say college players. Um, I like Haruto Inoue and Yuji Akahoshi a lot personally, but I don't know if Shinosuke Abe does actually, like in terms of Inoue, because He was very poor at preventing the home run ball in the second half last year and kind of just relegated him, off to the sidelines towards the end of the season. So, um, they brought in Takahiro Norimoto as well, who's trying to move back from a reliever to a starter. Like, very kind of interesting moves they've made. I'm not sure it works. What do you think about the rotation?
Yeah, man, they've added so much like foreign pitching depth, but it like we talked about it in previous podcasts, is like, are they almost building one starter with like the guys that they brought in? So yeah, I'm just very interested in this team from like how is it gonna look, you know? Like I trust that Iori Yamasaki is gonna look good. Like I kind of almost trust that profile to succeed. It's what are you gonna get from Togo? What are you gonna get from Whitley? What are you gonna get from Inawu? What are you gonna get from Akakahoshi? Like even Spencer Howard, Mata, like Norimoto, like how deep can you go in this rotation if like something doesn't go right? Um I'm also like straight up gonna like I mean we saw with my NPB starting pitcher rankings, I think Forrest Whitley's gonna bang. Like I think he's gonna be really good. So will it give you like 120, 130 innings? Like if you get 120, 130 innings of like top 10 pitcher in the league, Forrest Whitley, then we're talking about like, oh my gosh, like Yamasaki's really good. Like we're starting to get it rolling a little bit. And then that's when I can like look back at the lineup and be like, okay, you got like Trey Cabbage, Dahlbeck, Richard, Kushida, Izaguchi. I think is like, I mean, again, I think Izaguchi's like the best shortstop, like all around in NPB. So it's kind of like one of those things with like, how good can they be? Then I start talking myself into like, okay, yeah, like they could be the second best team in this league, but I just don't know. I guess it's just a lot of question marks. It's a lot up in the air. The one thing that I have no question marks about is the back end of games, giving the ball to Taisei and then Rydell Martinez. I think when they hand the ball to Rydell Martinez, I set the number at like 30 saves. I think Rydell's gonna get like 40, dude. Like you gotta set the line at like 40 for him and just be like, how good is he gonna be when you hand him the baseball? And yeah, Taisei wasn't good in WBC, but look, like Chris Langan wrote a pretty good article about it.
Yeah.
Like he does things on the mound that like no one else in the world does. And I think that matters when you face a guy over and over and over again. He just does things funky. And yeah, I think when it comes to handing the ball over to those guys, like I guess my ultimate question would be, how many times is Yomiuri going to be leading after this seventh and eighth inning? Like if they're leading after the seventh inning, I think we can give them a lot of wins. If they're not scoring that many runs, then it's gonna be an issue. Like, can you actually get enough wins to be like a playoff team in this league?
Yeah, the bullpen is I mean, locked down. You got Eito Tanaka, who has one of the best, sinkers, shutos, whatever you want to call it in the league. Great pitch to contact guy. Taisei, obviously, and Rydell Martinez is arguably the best 1-2 punch in MPB. You're saying 40 saves for Rydell. How about 50? I think Rydell can get to 50
Yeah,
if they're playing a lot of close games, and we do see a lot of that in dead ball MPB. Um, I'm looking at the offense, and it is very three true outcomes heavy. And when they had Kazuma Okamoto, I think that they had a certain level of like stability and just you could pencil him in for 30 homers every single year. You could pencil him in for a 900 OPS. They do not have that at all anymore. It's a lot of guys like Dahlbeck, Richard Tsunagawa, Trey Cabbage, who are 0 or 100, in my opinion. Like Dahlbeck has been kind of mashing in spring, but we never know how that looks once we get into the season. Cabbage, I think, had its ups and downs last season as well. And then, Richard had the furthest hit home run in MPB last year. I mean, he can hit the
yeah.
ball almost 500 feet, but he also has the worst contact rates in the game. So,
The raw power
um,
is like 100 great. Like that dude hits the
yeah,
ball farther than anyone
the
else. Like
the
it's just
if
great.
that's the
It's just
middle of
great.
their lineup, I mean, it is obviously scary. It is dangerous, but it's not going to be consistent. And that's where guys like Naoki Yoshikawa, who's I think very good on both sides of the ball, Yuta Izaguchi. I mean, what a great tandem there they have up the middle. And then Yukinori Kishida, in my opinion, best catcher in NPB right now. I
Yeah.
can't believe he didn't get selected for the WBC team with the second half that he had, and he's getting better defensively. So I
Yeah,
mean,
he's
he's
so
probably the
solid.
best hitting catcher, and him and Kai plus I mean Oshiro, who I mean he's been completely passed up on at this point. But I mean, they have so much depth at that position, and Yamase, one of their young guys there, has a great arm as well. I'm not really sure what they're doing with Go Matsumoto in center. I will say, like, they signed him this offseason, and guys, he had a 188 average and a 507 OPS last year. Like, they are trying to really buy into that, like, 2022 nostalgia, when
Who
this guy
would you
had.
play in center if it was up to you?
See, I think it's tough because it can't be Maru anymore. Like
Yeah.
Maru is a guy that they, had in center, they've had in the corners. I mean, he's a legend, he's a future Hall of Famer, all that, but he can't play the center field position anymore. I was really hoping at this point that somebody like a Shinsuke Sasaki or a Shogo Asano or a Hagio would have like taken that next step. They had Luis Okoye there before. He's back, he's in Mexico now.
Yeah.
Um, I think center field's kind of a hole, and Matsumoto really needs to bounce back. I mean, I don't even need like you know we don't need a crazy like number from him. Like even a 90 OPS plus would be good enough if he's giving you plus defense out there. And then I think Raito Nakayama is really good. Have to find a spot for him because he can play right, he can play third, he can play second, he can play a little bit of everywhere. Another thing I'll just say about their, you know, acquisitions in the offseason is they seem to love these Rakuten guys because Spencer Howard, Takahiro Norimoto, Masahiro Tanaka, and then
Yeah.
Yuhei Takanashi in the bullpen. These are all former Eagles pitchers, and they're just like recruiting all of them. So that's an interesting kind of quirk they have going. But yeah, I think this is a very difficult team to predict. Like I have gone back and forth on them. I've thought that they're like, hey, they're probably good enough to be second place. Then I'm like, well, if everything goes wrong, they're just like a fifth place team. It's just like they don't have that stability anymore. Whitley, I'm very high on as well, but he had one of these spring outings the other day where he couldn't get out of the first inning, gave up a grand slam to Yuto Akihiro, and that's when the command was off. Just walking guys, hitting guys. It's very volatile, this rotation. So where do you have them finishing?
I have him third right now, but you could talk me into like 5 or 2. Like again, it's a lot of like Hiroshima and Chunichi. Like you could talk me into those 3 teams being in. I kind of have them in a similar grouping. Like you could really talk me into like any one of them being like any order of teams from like 2 to 5. I think Yokohama's a little bit better than both of those
Yeah.
teams, or even like all 3 of those teams. But I don't think it's like by much where I'm like, oh yeah, Yokohama's definitely the second best team. Like I think if things go right, like dare I say, if Forrest Whitley's like a top 5 Salamora candidate, like look out, the Giants team might be really good. So I don't know if he's gonna get the innings for like that accolade. Um, but I
Certainly
do
top
think,
five pitcher, just like a
yeah,
Duplantier.
exactly. So, yeah, I'm gonna go 3 right now, but yeah, you could talk me into 2. I would buy it
Yeah.
almost.
I think they have probably more upside than a lot of those teams, but I think they're fourth just
Okay.
because I can see things going very wrong very fast, and I'm not sure I trust Abe as a manager.
Do you think
Um,
Maru
yeah.
is gonna be like a pinch hitting guy basically? Like that is a guy where like the experience is there where it's like, okay, like he could be like a really good pinch hitter for them, or like a really good platoon bat for
I
them.
think he's gonna end up like starting quite a bit, like even over
Yeah.
like in Nakayama, which again I'm not sure I love that. Like maybe when Cabbage has a cold streak and he gets
Yeah.
deregistered for a little bit, maybe they plug him in there. Um, like Maru's kind of like I don't know. I don't want to say like Mike Trout just because it's different level of production, but it's like been a slow, gradual kind of decline, but he does still show flashes of like, wow, there's like that MVP player again. So,
Yeah, I don't know what I
um,
guess we'll get this with MPP Plus. I don't know what his bat speed numbers are, but like when you watch him on video, you're like, oh, that dude has bat speed. You're like, you can clearly tell that like he can hit the baseball. It's just like whether it like actually works.
That home
Kind of.
run he hit in like 2019, where he's like
Yeah.
he didn't know where the ball was and he's like not looking at it. I gotta pull that up. Like that is one of the nuttiest home runs I've ever seen in my
Yeah, you
life.
might need to tweet that out with the video. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that home run is crazy.
All right. Getting into the last two teams, the penultimate one is the Yokohama DeNA BayStars. They were in second place last year. Obviously, they were the Japan Series champions back in 2024, climbing all the way up from the 3 seed with a improbable run all the way to the Japan Series. Very solid team all around last year, but they just could not get past Hanshin in the championship series. But they looked good on both sides of the ball, and they have made quite a few changes this season because the rotation has lost the likes of Anthony Kay. It was their, best starter, at least on a, per inning basis last year. They lost Andre Jackson and Trevor Bauer. So that's like so many innings, it's 300 plus innings out the door. But they make up for it with John Duplantier, who was one of the best starters in all of NPB last year, granted only 90 inning sample with Hanshin. They bring in Austin Cox, and they had already signed Shintaro Fujinami midway through last season. They're moving like Taisei Irie, stretching him out. So they have definitely kind of deepened their rotation. But you look at their offense, and I think it's really good. I mean, I think it's one
Yeah.
of the best in NPB. Like pretty much every position. And I guess the one caveat here is they lost Tyler Austin, but Tyler Austin barely played because he was, so injury prone. He signs with the Cubs and he's hurt again, unfortunately. But I like this team on both sides of the ball. Like I don't think they're Hanshin caliber, but I think they have they've done well to both have like the ceiling of being like a pennant contender while also like steadying the ship. Like a couple years ago, they didn't have much depth in the pitching, like they could really kind of bottom out. I don't think they have that anymore. Um, with that being said, they are kind of not a great regular season team, like ever. Like I'm
It's
always like
funny.
expecting them to be good, and then I'm like in June, and it's like, damn, they're in fourth place, three under 500. That's just kind of what DeNA do every year.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of funny because they'll do that and then they'll get into playoffs and like they had that miracle run. But they're clearly talented enough to like play with the Hanshins and the SoftBanks and the Nipponhams. Like there's enough talent there to do it. It's just like whether they put it all together and like actually do it over the course of a full season. Um, man, Yoshi Tsutsugo still doing it. Like Hummel, I'm interested in like what he's gonna provide for them. Maki is still good at second base. Someone asked me about like how I felt about Shugo Maki and if like the decline was coming, and I was like, I think he was just hurt last year. Like I think like yeah, I think he's still gonna be good. Like obviously the bat speed's probably gonna go away with age at some point, but it's like yeah, I still think Shugo Maki is gonna be good. I like Miyazaki. Yuda Yamamoto is like I mean that dude can flat out catch. Like he can catch his ass off. So yeah, I like this lineup. And when you talk about like a guy at the very top of the rotation, like I guess you would say it's Duplantier is like their ace, but Kazuki Azuma, like we've talked about it over and over again, like that dude just goes out there and picks up quality starts. Like he just absolutely racks up quality starts. He understands how to get to the seventh and sixth inning of a game, and he just finds a way to do it, even with like a below average fastball, and he just kind of like spins his way to like success. Um, I am very interested in like what they do with Fujinami because I think Reynolds is good as their closer. I think Issei is good. I think Morihara is good. What are they going to do with my man Fujinami? Are they going to use him as a starter? Are they going to put him in the bullpen? I almost want to put him in the bullpen. Just put him in the
Yeah,
bullpen and let him cook. Like, what if he's like your eighth inning guy, your seventh inning guy? What if he's like your bridge to the seventh and eighth inning? Like, that would be nuts. Get that guy 2 innings and just be like, go out there and throw strikes, man. Give me as many strikes as you possibly
and
can.
I think it in a kind of a counterintuitive way, it helps that he hasn't had the best spring as a starter because I think he's just better suited for reliever. Like I don't really need to see this guy throwing strikes at 92 as a starter. Like that's not his calling card. He needs to be upper 90s. He needs to just blow it away. I don't care if he has a 15% walk rate. Just show me that big fastball and that splitter off of it. Like we saw weeks with Baltimore and Oakland where he looked like an absolute stud. Of course, 90% of the other time he was pretty awful. But Shintaro Fujinami, he's a fan favorite. I'm never gonna be, rooting against Fujinami. What do you think about like after Azuma and Duplantier? Like I think we have talked about this before, about like who's like the number three now. I think Yutaro Ishida is the guy. I mean, he looks awesome in spring.
Yeah.
That sweeper going away from righties is killer. It does kind of thin out after that. Like Kentaro Taira is really good when he's healthy, but he's never healthy. Onuki's like fine. He's like a back end guy. Yu Takeda is like a younger guy. Um, do you think like EDA can make it as a starter? And then I know you have more on Cox. So what do you think about like the rest of how that rotation rounds out?
Yeah, I think Cox has a chance if I like yeah, I think Cox has a chance. EDA is one of the ones where like I'd be interested to see like what would happen if you like just gave him 15 to 20 starts and you're just like, let's see what happens. Um yeah, I think Cox does some things like a little bit different than like NPB pitchers do in a whole, like Japanese pitchers on a whole. I know that we've talked about this before. I'll go ahead and mention it again. Like, there's not a ton of Japanese pitchers that are like creating cut ride and like cutting the ball and like riding it in the zone. So like last year in AAA, I pulled up TJ stat stuff. Last year in AAA, 17.6 inches of IVB from a 53-degree arm slot, so probably like high three quarters. But he had 4 inches of horizontal break on the pitch, so you can tell he's like cutting the ball. It's like a cut ride pitch, and then he's throwing like a sinker off of that. He's throwing like an actual like cutter off of that. Then he's throwing like a downer slider, and then even a bigger curveball off of that. So like again, I think his arsenal can play inside of NPB as like this unique look from like this 3/4 angle that like other NPB pitchers like don't get to. Because for me, like a lot of NPB pitchers, a lot of Japanese pitchers are like trying to get behind the baseball and like backspin it and carry it. And if a guy like Cox can almost get like supinated and get like to the side of the baseball and still create that carry while cutting it, like I'm all for that. So I actually think Cox has a chance, like no matter what role he's in, to like kind of be successful in NPB. What do you feel about EDA? Because I feel like it could work, but it would need to be like give me a 15-game sample and then we'll reassess. I don't know. Yeah.
I think Cox, and we talked about it with like Freddie Tarnock before. They can both definitely succeed based off a little bit of like unorthodox things by relative to MPB. And EDA, yeah, I saw him in person pitch against Team Australia before the WBC. He was maintaining the velo. I mean, it certainly isn't what he is in relief, right? Like when he's in the ninth inning, this guy's pumping 155. Like that's like
Yeah.
96, 97 miles per hour. He was more like low 90s, but I will say like he was throwing more of his secondaries, just getting more comfortable with those because obviously he's mostly just two pitch guy as a closer. I think he's actually a little bit, I didn't love it when I heard that he's going to get stretched out, just because I do think
Mm,
the bullpen you can use the help. Like Sean Reynolds, I think does have this like Trey Wingenter ceiling to where you just plug him in and he's just going to dominate with a lot of swing and miss. But he's inexperienced. Like, do you want to just thrust him right into the closer role? I'm
mm,
not sure. And Issei is good, but he can be a little bit hit or miss too. So I almost feel like EDA or Fujinami, like one of them just need to kind of slide down and help out that pen. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up taking like Tyra's spot in the rotation just because, Tyra is never healthy. But in general, I think the pitching will kind of be steady enough, league average, maybe better. Especially if Duplantier can, give you 120 innings ish.
yeah.
And then when it comes to the hitting, I just think they're, really good. Now, last year, funnily enough, they were very poor against lefties. They had the worst team WRC plus in the league against left-handers, which is, kind of unexpected because they have a decent amount of like righty kind of mashers in here. But that's something that's going to have to change. I like that they brought in Cooper Hummel, of course. He's a switch hitter. He can help the top of the lineup. Ebina is finally coming along. Like Ebina is a
Mm,
guy who
yeah.
4 or 5 years ago I was saying like this is my breakout pick, and then he did nothing. And then when I finally gave up on him, he is finally figured it out, and he's taking Kuwahara's spot now. So that's good. Tsutsugo got hurt yesterday, so I hope he's fine. But I mean, 20 homers in 75 games last year after coming back. Like, my
Still
goodness,
doing it.
he was doing like Murakami and Okamoto type things. And of course, Miyazaki, one of the best to do it this generation when it comes to, line drive hitter, bat to ball type stuff. Shortstop is a massive hole still. Like, for the past half decade, they just can't figure out who to put at short.
Mhm.
So it's still going to be this kind of rotation of Ishikami, Mori, Kyoto for a little bit while longer. But Shugo Maki's a superstar. Keita Sano is pretty solid. And then I love the catching tandem that we've talked about before with Yuda Yamamoto and um, Shion Matsuo, one of the best prospects in the game. So I have DeNA finishing in second. And I honestly think if anyone's going to compete with Hanshin, it would be them. Like, similar to how you have SoftBank and Nipponham, I'm willing to say that, like, Hanshin and DeNA are their own tier at the top of the central, but not quite as close. Just because I think Hanshin is just so loaded this year. But where do you have DeNA?
I have DeNA second right now, and I think that's fair considering what their lineup is, and then if Duplantier can give them like 130, 140 innings, I think I think that's a fair assessment of like them. But I also can see it like again with most of this grouping of teams. I think they're a clear cut above the other team. Well, not clear. I should rephrase that. I think they're a cut above the three other teams that we've talked about in this kind of like grouping with Chunichi, Hiroshima, and Yomiuri. But there could be a chance that they're like it just falls apart and like stuff happens and they end up being like the fourth or fifth best team. I could see that, but right now I have them as second best.
Finishing off with the defending pennant winners, the Hanshin Tigers, who lost in the Japan series
Yeah.
to SoftBank. Um, they were the best pitching team in all of NPB last year. I mean, they had an excellent defense as well. And they just got even better because the number one prospect out of college in the NPB draft, Masahiro Tateishi, they won the lottery for his negotiation rights. So just go ahead and add the best college hitter in the nation
And
into
stick them in left
this.
field.
Yeah, and stick him in left field, so now that just strengthens them across, basically every position, I think, with the exception of shortstop. If I just go quickly around the diamond, you got Seishiro Sakamoto behind the plate, elite defender, Yusuke Oyama, maybe, trending downward at this point, but still really good power bat, Takuma Nakano, great on both sides of the ball, speedy, good defense, Teruaki Sato, the reigning MVP, 40 bombs, and then, Tateishi, again, more of like a natural third baseman, but he can play left. Koji Shikamoto, one of the better table setters in all of NPB, top 10 player, good on both sides of the ball, stolen base title, all that. And then Shota Morishita, we saw what he did against
Yeah.
Venezuela. He was the one guy who stepped up, right, for Seiya Suzuki when he got hurt in that game. Morishita and Sato are arguably the two best players in NPB. I mean, obviously, I want to put Kensuke Kondo still in that conversation, but Sato and Morishita are just nasty. What a great duo they have there. And then shortstop is the one question mark where it's like, okay, you got Cam Devaney, who they brought in, former Royals, Pirates prospect. And then they have Obata and Kinami, who have kind of rotated over the past few years. They're kind of okay defensively, not great. They have like little hot streaks as hitting. Like Kinami, when they won the Japan series in 2023, was giving them a lot of clutch hits, but then he kind of fell off. Obata, last year, there was like a stretch around the All Star break where he hit like 4 homers in a week, and then he did nothing the rest of the season. So,
It was like, oh, we might have the shortstop position figured out, and then it's like, never mind.
so yeah, let's start with the offense. Is this the best offense in NPB?
Yeah, it's close, but yeah, I think SoftBank top to bottom might be better, but I think the upside big top talent, Teriyaki Sato, Morishita, Chikamoto, Oyama. I mean, we didn't even talk about him. Yeah, like, yeah, I think they're better, but it's not by a whole lot. It's those two teams basically. Um, Man, now I'm really excited to see Tateishi in in left field, because it's like if he's as good as people say he is, then yeah, I think it puts him over the top. I think it puts him over SoftBank, but it's close. Um, I guess for me, man, I like when Chikamoto's setting the table. Uh, can I spoil a little bit of like Central League MVP talk? Do you think it's like Sato and Marishida's like award to lose, basically?
Yes, and I think Morishita has a very good chance to steal it from Sato, depending on, I think we saw in Samurai Japan, like, these two were both being used off the bench, which is, that is questionable in and of itself, but both of them delivered when it really mattered. And, you could say that, Sato is the best player in NPB right now when it comes to his raw power, his bat speed, his exit velos. But I mean, Morishita's popping like 112 EVs, regularly when we
And
see him in
running.
these kind of international games too. Yes, and running.
I
Defensively, I think better than Sato,
Yeah.
value wise, right?
No, he would be playing center if Chikamoto wasn't as good as he is. Like straight up. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's those two guys awards to lose. Honestly, it's funny. I have a 1, 2, 3 of MVP, like CL MVP. I know it usually goes to like the best, or the
The pennant
winner
winner.
of the pennant winner. Yeah, the pennant winner, the best player on the pennant winner usually wins it. But I'm telling you right now, we haven't even talked about the rotation yet, bro. Shoki Murakami, I'm gonna flat out say it. He's gonna be a top 5 Salamura candidate. He just is. Like, there's something about Shoki. He just pitches well. He does his thing. I like Hiroto Saiki in terms of like, I think, yeah, he throws too many fastballs. He spams it. I mean, whatever. Like he extends down the mound. He gets huge extension, and he spams his fastball because he knows it's good. Like, those are two really good pitchers. And then you have Takahashi on top of that. Ihara, Otake, like kind of junk balls, kind of low speed, command his way through a game. Man, I like this rotation a lot, and I think it starts with Shoki Murakami at the top. I mean, I know I didn't put him as like a top 5 pitcher in my rankings, but I'm flat out telling you from a production standpoint and giving that award out, I think he's gonna end up being a top 5 guy.
I think I think you're onto something there with Shoki Murakami. Like when you consider his, like bulldog mentality on the mound of just working deep, and he, like, you look at his splits third and fourth time through the order, and they really don't change all that much from first two times through the order. Like that's very rare. That shows you just the amount of command and sequencing and mixing and matching he has with this six pitch mix. And Psyche's good. I like Psyche, but I think Murakami is just more dynamic. And quite frankly, if he gets to, you know, say he does what Hiromi Ito did last year, minus the strikeouts, I don't think he has quite the strikeouts, but he has definitely like the ability to lead the league in wins, lead the league in innings, lead the league in ERA. Then Murakami's going to be your Salamura winner. Minus Duplantier now in the rotation, so they bring in Easton Lucas and Carson Ragsdale. I think Hanshin's lab is going to be able to get quite a bit out of these guys. I don't know if they're going to be in the rotation necessarily. They could be in relief. We've seen
Yeah.
both in spring. But, I think because they're so solid defensively at really, I mean, most of the key positions, right? Especially up the middle, shortstop, maybe not, but second base, center field, and catcher, definitely. They can afford to be a little bit more pitch to contacty, like and get away with it. Bullpen with Daichi Ishii now being out for, probably until the end of the year with the injury he sustained in Samurai Japan camp, it gets a little bit more dicey for my liking, just
Mhm.
because now you have Suguru Iwazaki, Masaki Oyokawa, and Takuma Kirishiki. Those are three lefties. They're three very good lefties, but where's the big righty? And I think that's where Daori Moreta is going to be huge. You have Doli still, who's older but coming back. Atsuki Yuasa, back he was on Samurai Japan back in 2023. Then he got a pretty bad injury, missed a couple of years, and he's back with them. So do you think the bullpen's going to be okay even without, the 0.17 ERA setup man Daichi Ishii missing?
Yeah, I think Easton Lucas, Ragsdale, you could also throw in that conversation of like they find a way to bridge some of those innings. Yeah, I think Moreta ends up being like the guy that they have to throw is like again, he kind of throws that like gyro ball reverse slider. I mean, we saw it work for Imai. I think for him, like if he throws enough strikes, if he commands the fastball glove side and then kind of throws that gyro ball off of it, like yeah, I'm buying into like the bullpen being good enough. I also do think Iwasaki's like a good closer. Like I do think like when you give him the ball in the ninth inning, like I do think he's gonna figure it out. So yeah, I don't have too many concerns about the bullpen. I, I do understand what you're saying and like bringing up like Ishii's like an important part. I mean, again, you don't do what he did in NPB if you're not talented, and he's very clearly talented. So yeah,
And yeah, I mean, Hanshin, their staff in terms of ERA, they were at the very top, 2.21
two
ERA as a
point two.
team. Again, just speaks to the dead balls, but it's a 130 ERA
Wait, go back.
plus.
Well, yeah, 130. Okay, I was like, what was the
Yeah,
ERA plus? Like yeah,
that was number one in MPB, just ahead of SoftBank. But they did it in a very kind of different way than the other better staffs like SoftBank, DeNA, Nipponham. They have the seventh best strikeout rate as a team. So I mean that's actually bottom half of the league, and yet good command, guys with deep arsenals, not walking
yeah,
guys, and then just elite defense behind them. That's how they keep runs off the board. So I wouldn't be shocked if the pitching like takes a small step back, but I think they're going to make up for it by the offense being better because it would not shock me if Marista takes yet another step forward into this Seiya Suzuki level of slugger. Chikamoto's going to be doing his thing. Sato is MVP front runner, and
hmm
then Masahiro Tateishi, if he as a rookie can give you 15 to 20 bombs. Obviously, that's very difficult in this current era, but he has the raw power for it. I mean, this guy's BP, this guy's, in-game footage I've seen. Like he has oppo power. He can go pull side. Obviously, he's very talented. So I think in terms of collectively, I think Hyuji Fujikawa here is going to get them back to the Japan series. And because their path for my money, is easier than SoftBank, who have Nippon Ham in their way. I almost think like Hanshin is the Japan series favorites, just from the virtue of they have the easier league at this point in time. And once you get to the Japan series, it does come down to a lot of the little things, and they lost out to SoftBank in that department last year. A lot of those close games, they just couldn't um, hold out. But both of them now have suffered a blow. Like they're missing Ishii, they're missing Fuji. I think Ishii should be able to come back though by postseason time, whereas Koya Fuji's like out for good for
yeah.
2026. So um, yeah, obviously I think you have Hanshin winning the pennant as well. But do you think they could beat SoftBank or Nippon Ham in the Japan series?
Absolutely, and I think it's because A, the outfield's good enough, but B, they have two aircraft carrier. I mean, we talked about with the Dan O'Dowd's like comments before. They have two aircraft carrier type guys who can just like let's put the team on the back, hit 2 home runs in this game, let's win that one. Okay, Sato just hit 2 bombs here. Let's get nasty. Like Morishita's gonna go ahead and hit 2 bombs in like one of the other games. Like I really think like they have guys who can do that. And that's special. And we haven't even talked about it, but like Teriyaki Sato, like looks like he might get posted, or looks like he definitely wants to get posted. Man, if that dude hits 35 plus bombs again, 30 bombs again, then gets posted, wins a Japan series, does everything you're supposed to do, wins another MVP. Like, that's some like legendary stuff. And I'm not going to put it past a guy like that to like figure it out and just almost put the team on his back and kind of will them to a Japan series title. So would I have SoftBank as the favorites? Maybe, but not by a whole lot. And I guess I'll put it this way. I don't think it's an easy path to a dynasty. I kind of mentioned a dynasty earlier for SoftBank. Like it's starting to look like that in the Pacific League, but in terms of like overall league and overall NPB, I don't know if it's that easy to get to a dynasty because you still have Nipponham in the Pacific League, and look, Hanshin's like as good as SoftBank, and it's very clear they're as good as SoftBank. I don't think the rotation is quite as deep, but man, like that lineup can absolutely bang.
Yeah, and when you look at SoftBank's, 2010s dynasty, the unique thing about that was they beat every single team in the Central League during that span since, like 2013. They took down all six
Yeah,
teams in the CL to, win all those titles. So, there was clearly not enough in the way of like one dominant supreme force in the CL. I think if SoftBank is going to continue to, bang out a bunch of titles in this decade, a lot of it's going to be coming against Hanshin, just because I think the Tigers are very well positioned, even with guys that they're going to have to post eventually, if they, if they're 1 year before free agency, for instance, because I know they don't want to post Sato, so they can wait on him a little bit longer if they really want to.
yeah.
But they're getting smarter, and I think they are. These two teams can clash for a long time. But as we mentioned before, I think the fighters are right there neck and neck with these other powerhouses. Those are the three big juggernauts right now for my money. But let's finish off with remind me of your standings predictions and then give me your MVP and Salomon Award winner.
Yeah, I might have changed just while we were talking in the podcast because I was like doing things in my head and flipping stuff around on this doc. But my Central League standings will be Hanshin 1, DeNA Yokohama 2, Yomiuri 3, Hiroshima 4, Chunichi 5, but I can see being a two. I can see it being two, and then Yakult is the sixth place team, and then I have SoftBank 1, Nipponham 2, Orix 3 in the Pacific League, Rakuten 4, Seibu 5, and Lotte 6.
I will keep it interesting in the Pacific, and instead of giving the same exact, I will swap Oryx
I'm
and
fine with that.
Rakuten.
Yeah.
So SoftBank 1, Nipponham 2. I'll go Rakuten 3, Oryx 4. Mostly just based on my doomer mentality after the Shinpei news. Then Seibu 5, Lotte 6. Central League, I'm going Hanshin 1, DeNA 2, Chunichi 3, Yomiuri 4, Hiroshima 5, Yakult 6. How about MVPs in each league?
Oof, MVP was a little bit tough, man. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think a pitcher takes it home again. So if that's the case, give me Kondo, Pacific League MVP. I actually had it out to 5. Give me Yanagita maybe playing enough games for it to matter and him being 2. I
Imagine if
think
he goes out with another MVP at the
yeah,
end of
with
his
another
career. Wow.
MVP. I'll say this surprise. I think Shun Mizutani and Frammo Reyes like could do some MVP stuff this year. So be on the lookout for that. So Central League MVP for me. I'm doing it. I'm giving Teriyaki Sato another MVP award. I understand how good Shota Morishita is. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be shocked if Shoki Murakami won MVP. Like if he has like a 1.3 ERA, like in all these
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wins, and yeah, it's not that many strikeouts. I could see it. Forrest Whitley, like sneaky. They're not gonna win the pennant, so it won't matter. But like, yeah, again, I'm banging the Forrest Whitley drum.
Yeah, we'll keep pushing the forest agenda.
Yeah, fair. Do you want me to give Sal more right now, or do you want to go ahead and give your
Yeah, go
MVP?
ahead. Give me
Okay,
Samura.
I'm going Mornello. I think he won MVP last year. I think he's winning Sal more this year. But I'll give you a top 5. I'm going Mornello, Ito, Tanaichi 3, Miyagi 4, and then give me Shoki Murakami 5.
PL MVP. I think the front runner is Kondo, but I'll switch it up. I'll say Roya Kurihara because I think Roya
Okay.
Kurihara, before he went down with this, I think it was an ACL injury he had in 2023. I want to say he was like trending to be this franchise's superstar, like the next face after Yanagita. But then it took him a couple years to get back. He was really good last year. I think he's an excellent defensive third baseman, the best all around third baseman in NPB. Plus, you add to that, he's going to catch. That's going to make this whole narrative really nice when he gets to like 25 bombs, 100 ribbies. And I think he's going to
The
play a
versatility.
little
Yeah.
bit more. Yeah, he's going to play more than Kondo and Yanagita. And I think it is going to be hard for like Moinello to repeat. Like he could be really good, but I think it's to be a back-to-back MVP as a pitcher is going to be, pretty historic. So I'll say Kurihara MVP in the Pacific, and then I'll say Shota Morishita for Hanshin, just because I think him and Sato are going to have very similar production, but they might like the fact that Morishita is kind of the flashier up and coming guy, and really good defender out in right field. I think Sawamura for me, all of those are very good picks. I am kind of thinking like this could be Moinello's year as well, because you could have argued for him last year as well over Ito just because of the ERA, but he was like 30 innings shy of Ito. Ito is obviously still like, I know what happened in the WBC. We're not,
Yeah, we all
no,
know. We're
nobody's,
not we're not we're not blind to it, okay, people? We
nobody's
understand.
excited. Nobody's happy about that, but he's still up there. And, I think Miyagi, this could be his year.
Mm,
So I'm going to go with Miyagi in terms of he's only topped out at like 150 innings before, but I really would like to see him take that next step, get to 175, get to 185 innings. He's going to have the strikeouts. I know Orix doesn't have the best defense behind him, so it's a little bit harder. Like he's playing the game on hard mode, so um, Orix doesn't quite have that luxury in terms of having like the best fielders out there. But I think this could be Miyagi's year. It's going to be really nice to put on his resume.
nice. Uh, I thought you were gonna go Sumida for a second, and I was gonna be here for it. I have him sixth on my list right now, but
I don't. I would love to go with Sumida. I don't think he's going to get the wins because they
yeah,
value wins so much. And I Shoki Murakami also, by the way, it's just like he could just easily win it. He can get the 15 wins.
this
He can get
dude
the
plays
15
in
wins.
Koshien, like it's just like he's got vibes, like he wins enough games, like yeah, I don't know, just
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, that just about does it for us today. Very long preview episode, but I am curious what everyone else's predictions is. So put those in the comments below. Brandon, where can people find you? And what are you up to right before the regular season?
Yeah, cool. People can find me on Twitter. I've been saying I'm gonna bang out the top five scouting reports. I will get those out. So I got Monello in the pipeline. I'm almost done with that one. Then I'll move on to my last three. I'm so really excited for that. Even if it's a little bit late for like the start of the season, like still relevant. So it'll be good. I really like doing the WBC poll previews. If people haven't checked those out, like you totally can still check them out and like read them. It's just like chock full of information, really. I know like the polls are over and WBC is over, but still chock full of information. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm gonna be working on. And then obviously doing stuff daily with Prospects Live. We got like our MILB daily sheets and MLB daily sheets and college daily sheets. So I like doing those, and then also probably writing whatever comes to my mind. Look, I might write like a Kensuke Kondo, like this dude is the best hitter and pure hitter in NPB article at some point. I made a joke that I missed out on the Takayuki Kato like deep dive article. Like I'm just a little too late on it, but that guy's still dicing, still cooking. So yeah, that's where people can find me is Prospects Live, and then obviously Twitter at my handle, Brandon Tweets. So yeah.
You can find all of my stuff at Yakyu Cosmo. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time.